Y'all ready?
Ready.
Okay. Call to order the meeting of Rolesville Town Board regular meeting, March 3rd, 2020. Welcome. Got a few guests out here. Welcome tonight. Thank you for coming out. We'll start off with Pledge of Allegiance, and everybody remain standing for the invocation. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I know you're new in the community, Reverend, so anything you want to say,
Okay.
Introduce yourself if you like.
Great, thank you. Hi, my name is Michael Eley Sr. I am the new pastor over at New Bethel Baptist Church here in Rolesville. And I first want to say thank you for inviting me out, and I look forward to other meetings in the future. Okay? So once again, thank you. Shall we pray together? Kind Spirit, we give thanks for this day and for another opportunity to gather and govern. We invite your Spirit into this place. It is our petition that the town of Rolesville be covered in your divine love and in mercy. We pray for our leaders. You would be empowered by your Spirit. Give wisdom to our leaders to allow us to move to the future. We pray for the citizens of Rolesville, that division would be dismantled, that we may live in blessed community, be a hedge around our children, strength for our elders, a guide to us all. We pray this prayer in the name of the one who can do all things but fail. Amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Eley. Okay, first order of business is the review of the agenda by the board, additions, changes of items of new business or agenda for consideration. How does the board action for this?
Ronnie, I'm okay with it, but you did mention a concern about 3 public hearings. If that is the case, I would suggest, or we get input from the planning board on this, that we having 3 public hearings in one night, and if we do remove one, I would recommend it be the zoning map amendment.
Okay.
Okay. But
Would
again,
it be okay we move that down to board action in 5? It'd be the last thing we take
sure.
to talk about.
Well, with that exception, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, board. We'll start off with board liaison reports. Mayor Pro Tem Medley, any report from the planning board?
Just a little. We had our first meeting of this new board with one new member and myself, and it was actually very educational, literally. So it was more of a listen and be quizzed, and I thought that was a great way to start off this planning board. And other than that, Danny did say that we did catch a break that week, but the next month we're going to have some things on the agenda for us to go over. So basically, I just want to say it was educational. I appreciate what Danny did that night. Took questions and answers. We did a little couple of quizzes, and it kind of showed you how much you didn't know or how much you knew. So it was good. So I thank you. That was really it. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sutton, Economic Development.
Yes, thank you. So just a couple of updates, actually. You've probably heard these before, but Rachel, I always get y'all's names mixed up. Rachel, who's over our chamber, Michael, and myself, we now have a regularly scheduled monthly meeting where we connect, which is a great connection for us with the chamber. We also are planning an April meeting for our stakeholders in relation to the Main Street Vision Plan and other economic development efforts that are coming along in Rolesville. And Michael and I got to have some fun on the phone with the IRS. It was a conversation. Well, first of all, we were surprised that someone answered the phone, but they did answer the phone. And we went over the REDAC information, and that's the development committee that was here before us, that we are trying to figure out how we're going to rename it and reuse it for our efforts today. But we got a really kind man on the phone, and we probably spent 30 minutes. We could not stop him from talking, but just like Michelle just said, we were quite educated on what we can and cannot do. So that was a great informative session. And then I'm going to be meeting with some developers later this week just to get some information about interest in Rolesville. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Commissioner Vilga.
Yeah, we had a parent meeting 2/26. We had a presentation by Recreation Resources Service, basically discussed how we would go about different types of grants for future development and the steps needed to take to get those. They noted that Rolesville was awarded 2 grants in the past for Main Street Park to help us out. And also reviewed and discussed the role of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, what they should look to do in the future. We had a presentation of the Farm Master Plan, which we'll see again tonight. I will see again tonight. Discussion of the Rolesville Parks and Greenway signage, and they decided to make a small group that's going to look at what that's going to look like and kind of bring it back to that board to give them ideas, to try to tie it into what we're doing existingly in the town right now. We also had, they continued discussions on what they'd like to have as their goals for 2020. And there was a report from Parks and Rec regarding the fencing for the ball fields, participants in spring sports, and the events they'll start having in April. That's all we had.
Very good. Thank you.
Can I just add something to Paul's report for Paul to give us? Because I don't know if you all know this. Some of you may follow him on Facebook. But Paul does, like, communications about what's going on in the town. He updates things. And he has religiously done this since he's been on the board. So I commend him for that. And that, to me, should be part of his update because I look for it. I learn stuff from Paul's updates. So if y'all don't know, look for Paul's updates. They're pretty awesome. So thank you for doing
I
that.
appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you, Paul. Commissioner Wilson, Public Safety.
Public Safety met since our last meeting. It was week before last. I don't have the exact date. And I've got some figures to share with you as a result of that meeting. There was a rumor going around that we were going to lose some of our EMS coverage, and that is not true. There are changes being made to it, and I'm going to read you the changes, but I think we're going to be in better shape because of an extra truck being in place at the Wake Crossroads. But when I say truck, I mean ambulance. Wake County is putting a 24-hour resource truck or an ambulance in Rolesville in April. Eastern Wake EMS is moving a truck to Hopkins Road as a backup to Rolesville 9 to 9 a.m. until 9 p.m. So the current service will not change, and we have a new ambulance or truck going into the Wake Tech campus, which is a new location. So that's good. Also got some figures to share with everyone in regard to 2019. Rolesville Fire Department ran 1,108 calls in 2019, of which 632 of those calls were first responder calls, in other words, assisting EMS, and 476 calls were fire calls. Of all the calls, 60% of those calls were in Rolesville's zip code, and 40% of the calls were rural. Rolesville Fire Department new station location priorities are going to be discussed at our next, again at our next fire department board meeting, which is monthly. But, and it was supposed to occur last week, but one of the board members, Richard Bartholomew's son, died unexpectedly. So that was moved until March the 9th. But our priorities as we look at them, first would be Pierce Road location, second would be Fowler Crossroads location, and third would be the Burlington Mill location. This is based on input that we get from Wake County, as well as what we know is going on as far as subdivisions being approved in our ETJ. Okay. Wake County as a whole ran 113,875 calls in 2019. This averages 300 calls plus a day with 45 trucks. So we're staying busy. Rolesville's Police Department ran over 16,000 calls in 2019, averaging 43 calls per day. They now have 20 officers on staff, and they are also starting something called an Explorer School at Rolesville High School, giving police training to students to help in recruiting.
I'm sorry, what did you say, giving what?
Police training to students. So very, very pleased with Chief Soto's announcement of that. And that's my report.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. I know I'm the one that mentioned to you about the rumor, and it was someone with inside the EMS that said there was serious discussion of not having anybody here after hours. And I just talked to the person over the weekend. He says that's been nipped in the bud. So if you did that, I appreciate that. But
Well, we actually had someone from Wake County at our public safety meeting, and we got it from him too. But he now realizes the importance of making sure Rolesville is adequately covered.
right, we appreciate that, Jackie. Thank you very much.
Good. Thanks, Jeff.
Any other questions or any other comments from the board? Not hearing any. Do we have a Chamber of Commerce report? I see Mr. Allen there.
How long do I have?
3 minutes.
Minus one. I was wondering why you're all spiffied up. You look nice.
The board is asking for 2 then.
Covered, Alan, you got 20.
Most importantly, do you guys have your tickets for the chamber dinner?
I don't think so.
If you do not get them, they are March 26th. March 26th, make sure it's on your list. You all should be there front and center. It's your chamber. We have 149 members as of this meeting. And historically, we've spent a lot of time talking about how many members we have. And that seems to be the reporting metric that we report to you. And we say we have 149 or we have 150 or we have 160, and everybody checks that off and says, that's great, that's a great number. We're changing our view of our success for this coming year. I am now the chamber chairman, and I think that numbers of members is a horrible metric. So we're changing that to participation. So when we participate in things, we have 4 to 6 events a month. We're going to start looking at what percentage of our members participate. And we have not done that in the past. And when you go, if any of you attend, which I beg you to please come, if you do attend our meetings, you'll know that they're not well attended. Now, when we have our big events like the chamber dinner, and we have our big events like the golf tournament and the barbecue, everybody attends. And while I'm talking about the barbecue, I'm gonna get my plug in. We want to use Frasier Farm for the barbecue. If you haven't heard that from me before, you're hearing it now. So we do want to have it. We think it's a great location. It's a great opportunity for you to put the sports complex front and center in the location. I think it's a great opportunity. But at any rate, we're encouraging our people to be more active. We're changing our way we view our chamber. We're doing what's called OKRs, objectives and key results. We're creating that objective of having more participation. We're setting our key results and how do we get more participation? How do we communicate to our people? And we're taking more of a business approach to the chamber as opposed to a non-business approach to the chamber. So we're changing that a bit. I just want to go through some of our programs real quick, and one of them I want to highlight a lot. But one thing that we offer to our members is every single member has an ambassador, which reaches out to them, communicates with them, tells them what's coming up, introduces them now at functions. So Ronnie, you were there the other day, and you saw some of our business members are a little shy. So for their first, meeting in this large group, we introduce them for them, and then we'll let them do that. We also have Launch Rolesville. If you guys are not familiar with Launch Rolesville, we help young businesses put together business plans, put together financial plans, tell them all the horrible things that are going to happen to them when they go into business. I mean, the great things, sorry, that's going to happen to them, so that they're prepared for it, so that they're ready for it, because business is ugly. And so we want to help our people. So we have Launch Rolesville. We have Lunch and Learn series. We have our youth leadership group, which we're bringing into business at a very young age in the high school level, and getting them involved. But I want to spend a little bit more time on the Chamber Foundation, and I want to answer any questions that you guys have. If you have not heard, and if you were there the other night at the meeting, we talked about it a bit. We've created a Chamber Foundation. It's a 501c3 charitable foundation. It's an arm of the Chamber of Commerce. Their focus, and we're setting them up early with OKRs, their focus is workforce development, it's leadership training, it's entrepreneurship, economic development strategies, workforce competitiveness, and fundraising. So their objective is to reach out and bring in funds to do workforce development. And our objective is that when companies look to move and find a new location, we want them to look at Rolesville and say, I want to go there. They have a great workforce. They have plenty of people ready to go. They have a great leadership organization there. They've got a great facility. They've got a town that's ready to build for them and offer them opportunities. But on this board, let me just tell you about the people we have on it. Without the names, we have 2 PhDs on this board. We have one gentleman who has been the past commissioner here in Rolesville. He's been mayor pro tem. He's been on the Rolesville Planning Board. He's been on the county planning board. He spent his entire career in adult education, so we couldn't think of anybody more perfect than that. We have a person on there who's the past chairman of the Board of Elections in Wake County. Today being a perfect day for that. We have a retired banking executive. We have the retired worldwide chief technology officer of Alcatel. You can't get much better than that. Who also has a PhD. We have a retired software executive that grew his business and sold it. And we have a couple of business owners in there. But we're really excited about that Chamber Foundation. They just had their first meeting this past week. They met, they formed their board, they elected their leaders, their president, their vice president, their treasurer, their secretary, and we're filing their paperwork now because we needed those leadership people before we could file it. But we hope that that's a tremendous amount of horsepower that we're bringing. Most of these people that are on this, most all of them are retired or recently retired and still running consulting businesses. But we pulled one of them kicking and screaming into the organization, but he would be perfect for our group. But just a tremendous amount of horsepower, and we want to make Rolesville, seriously, we want to make it the place that people say, I'm going to put my business in Rolesville. I'm not going to these neighboring communities. I'm going to put it in Rolesville because I've got space, I've got people, I got a leadership team, I got people to support me and help me, and that's what we want, and that's what we've been offering to our businesses all along, but now we want to offer it to the new businesses that are looking in the community. So if you have any questions, let us know. We'll probably stop reporting the numbers of our members because I think that's a horrible metric in my opinion, and we'll stop reporting that. To me, it doesn't mean, it means that we're good at collecting fees and we're not good at serving our members, and we want to get better at serving our members. Any questions? If you don't have your tickets, get them.
What time does it start?
That's a very good question. I do not know.
Wait, I think I have the
Is
paper
it
right
6
here.
or 6:30 or something like
I
that?
do not know. I have to
But
look
for
it up.
I do have a question on the Chamber Foundation. So this is another arm of the Chamber, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's a charitable foundation that, as the chamber, we can't solicit funds for workforce development.
I got you.
And so we needed to create that organization and to be able to get funds in so that we could bring people in and train them if we need to. We're going to put Launch Rolesville under that group. We'll probably also move the youth leadership group under that group because these are some high-powered people that the youth would probably really benefit from.
And the
Yeah.
date of the chamber dinner?
Is March the 26th.
I have a question, Alan.
Yes, ma'am.
Frasier Farm and the barbecue. Would that be,
A great opportunity. That would be a great
in,
opportunity.
like how?
I think it's twofold. Number one, we need the space. We did well with the space we've had in the past years being beside the ball field. It presented its own problems. We did well with the space there beside Thales, and it was great, and I'm glad they allowed us to use it, and we ended up working great there. But in my opinion, both of those locations are sheltered from view, meaning that we don't get the attention. We've got a lot of people that do come through Roseville. We've got a lot of people bypassing Roseville too, on the bypass. And I think if we put it out there, we'll draw a lot more attention. It's a lot more open space. I understand we've got a farmer that's out there farming, but our period of time being in and out would be very short, and we can pick our location strategically as to not impact them as least as possible.
I thought that location only had one curb cut, one way in and one way out.
It does. It does have one way in and one way out. And so that hopefully we could beg and plead Chief Sutton to help us out in that respect. That what we'd end up having to do is cone off one lane, push everybody over as they're going down for one. It's going to be a Saturday anyway. Push everybody over to one lane, and we'd have everybody come in, coned in, and coned in, out, coming in and out. And it does present its own problems. But I think it gives us a great opportunity as coming off of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I think it's a great opportunity for us to showcase what we have in store for the community from a Parks and Rec standpoint.
What's the attendance at that event, Mike? Do you know?
Don't have a clue what our total attendance is. I'm sure Rachel has some of those numbers.
I know a couple of years ago, I know it's gotten bigger since then. It was like 35 or 3,600 or something like that.
And I don't know exact numbers. I'm sure Rachel has those numbers right at her fingertips. I do not.
You can usually tell close by the number of tickets you sell.
Yeah. And we've had some struggles. I mean, not this past year, but year before last, we got canceled because of a hurricane. And I think that regardless of where we have it, it's a challenge. I mean, we just don't have a great location to have it. But I think the openness and the space that the Frasier Farm does present us gives us a great opportunity there, and to grow with that facility as it grows.
Is there a rain date for that? So I'm thinking because it's so, would it get boggy and wet if it was raining that whole week leading up to the farm that Saturday?
It's another thing that we have to look at, and we have that regardless of where we go. I mean, we'll have that issue with it raining and being a rain out, and I mean, nowhere that we have it is a solid surface, asphalt, concrete, that kind of thing. All of it is going to be on grass, and we're going to have to work our way in. So it just depends on how we prepare and how we prepare our relationship with our farmer to get us ready for that.
I know it's a farm, and I know it's farmland out there, but is the land ready for an event like that? Is there a piece of that land that, have you guys been out there and looked and scoped it out?
If it's not today, we have plenty of time to get there, because this thing is a ways off, so we have plenty of time to get there. Yeah. You have to think, when we were here at Thales, we're only dealing with 10-acre spot of land, if that much. Same thing beside the ball field. We've got 116 acres out there. Yeah, most of it's farm field, but I think we could work around that.
Okay.
Questions?
Well, thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. I think you may have went slightly over the 2 minutes. I did call you Mike, and I know you don't mind your dad's name coming up. I get that all the time. So, next item, public invited to be heard. Individual wishing to participate in the public invited to be heard or requested to sign upon the form provided. When you're recognized, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and speak to the town board. Did we have anybody sign? I thought I saw George sign. Was there something else?
Another gentleman ahead of me.
Okay. That wasn't for the public thing then. That was for, did you want to speak, George?
I do.
Right. This is item not on the agenda.
I'm George Garcia, 524 Averett Road. My concern is UDO. The 200-foot limit that is established now for notification of any type of development affecting properties within that circle may not account for any peripheral impacts. It may be something that's 350 yards or whatever away, yet some of the properties will be affected eventually, like traffic or whatever, and they're not being notified.
Yeah.
That will come to the top soon. Okay. The other thing is on Chandler's Ridge, when the coordination meetings came about, there was a strip of land in the back that was not identified as being going to be taken by the city that borders us in the back. We were aware of the Corbin land, but this was not clearly defined at those meetings. Mm-hmm. And a comprehensive report or a notice to the owners needs to be made, okay?
Yeah,
Requires a certain amount of clarity.
Yeah, if I memory here, I think the strip of land you're talking about is owned by Luddy or something. Is that
Yeah.
what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I think I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
but that was never, in the meetings that happened back in this last summer and the spring before, that was not identified as potential of being taken into the city. Okay?
Gotcha.
So we're not going to do anything on our land, but it may affect us in the future. Okay?
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel. I think, Manager, you got those two comments. I know we knocked that 200-foot notification thing around several times on what that should be. So we will note that, George. Thank you. Was anybody else wanting to speak to public? Anybody else signed up? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next item is the consent agenda, and we did pull item 6 to be discussed later in the meeting. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So move.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
No opposes. Thank you very much. We have the board action part of the agenda. The first item is a public hearing, A20-01, Chandler's Ridge Annexation. I think Danny is going to present that. I'm going to open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. This thing just moved on me. Here we go. So we have a petition for annexation by Municipal Corbett, Northcoff, and all others, and WFINV LLC annexation. The area you have identified here is the actual acreage of the entire area in red. And here is the Young Street, West Young Street, right across from a little bit before you get up to Chalk Road. That right in the corner there where I got the pointer at is the First Baptist Cemetery, which is adjacent to the site. The cemetery is not included. So all the acreage you see outlined in red and does include the property Mr. Garcia was identifying, which is this strip of land right here. It does include it.
Does not.
Does.
Does.
Does include.
What's the acreage of that?
thought I had it in the summary here. It might be in the resolution. It's about 3 acres roughly. I apologize for the exact amount. I thought I had it in the summary. And the rest
It's like
of
a
it,
little carve-off piece, ain't it?
it's a portion of the main body, which is right in here. Just a little strip of land right here that they included in they did. I think the very first preliminary plat discussion didn't have it, but then it was added in. I can't answer Mr. Garcia's question about was it included at the time of the neighborhood meeting. I'll have to go back and look at that question. But it's a good point for him, but I don't recall right here to answer it today. But the petition does include it. They include it in the preliminary plat that's moving forward. And there will be a portion that's outside. The Corbin property does include this area here and the property to the east is all this tract. And the reason of that is this is our ETJ boundary, current. And just to let you know, based off of the agreement with the merger with the city of Raleigh, water and sewer services can only be served what's in the ETJ as of the time of the merger, and that is this line right here. Now, when the preliminary comes later to us, there will be restrictions placed on the land to expand it, but that will stay under the county's jurisdiction and it'll go under the covenants. But that's not relevant to the annexation, but I just wanted to explain the boundary, the why it is this unique shape. And that is because of water and sewer services.
So the annexation acreage, because we were looking at the acreage and it looks like there's a difference in the acreage. Is that what you're saying is the
Yes.
difference?
Yes, there's more land that they own that will be out in the county. And the reason it's left out is because we cannot extend water and sewer to it under
Gotcha.
the merger agreement.
So if we can't stand water and sewer, we can't annex it?
I think right now we took the position of only annexing what can be served by the town. That's a question of services extending with outside the, with the merger agreement.
So is that a legal position or that's just a position?
The determination was made before I came on the staff, but as my understanding was this was an understanding rather than a requirement at this time, and has been the policy longstanding with regard to the utility agreement.
Fundamentally is you do not have the ability to provide water and sewer out if you annex that area, which is one of the services being provided technically through the town of annexation.
But I'm just wondering, do we have ability to collect tax on it?
Not the portion that's outside if we don't annex it.
And that's a legal thing? You're saying that's legal?
I do not know that it's a legal requirement, but it is something that I could look into and get back to you on.
So, this is the actual map, and I know that was kind of hard to see this shaded area, which is 113 acres approximately, 113.11 acres total, and I went ahead and enlarged this a little better. So this is the annexation area with the boundary, with all the properties in question. Everything's in order for your proceeding. It's been advertised, and you may continue with the public hearing. And staff recommendation is to approve the annexation, subject to the comments in the public hearing. Any questions before?
Very good. Thank you, Danny. Any other questions for Danny?
The only question I would have is, do we have the option of annexing it in without that property in question? Or does that have to be all or one?
Well, if we proceed with this annexation, because we've got a map, we've advertised and et cetera, we can annex this. And if you say you wish the other part be negotiated and looked at, if we can legally provide it and meet statutory requirements as an annexation, we can certainly pursue a supplement annexation proceedings of the rest of the land.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the three acres in question.
As far as annexation goes, that's a question for whether you wish to accept it or not.
Commissioner, this is an annexation by petition.
Okay.
So it's,
And it's,
they're proposing the whole thing.
Okay.
and it's voluntary.
Okay.
It is voluntary.
Thank you, Danny. Any other questions for Danny? Okay, is there any comments from the public in favor of this annexation? Step up, state your name, address, please.
Mayor, member of the board, my name's Tyler Probst. My address is 2524 Reliance Avenue in Apex. I'd like to say that I am in favor of this annexation.
How are you related to this project?
I work for the surveying firm that performed this survey.
Any other questions?
Why would he be in favor? Why would he not be in favor for it?
Ask it.
I'm sorry, I was trying to whisper it. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah.
why you would be in favor for it or not. I mean, you did the work on it. I'm just trying to.
I'm here in support. I think it'd be a great addition to the town.
So you're the only one from the petitioner that's here, probably. Is that right?
I'm sorry?
You're the only one from the petitioner that's here tonight? From the,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So. Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
All right.
I want to go back to your question. So you asked the question about the tax on the part that's not being annexed. Why would we do this in pieces? Why is this being done in pieces? I don't understand the logic of that. Somebody explain it to me.
Is that a question for me?
It's not for you, I'm sorry.
I think Danny, you want to come back up
Or
and
Ronnie's question, so yeah,
and
Danny to
explain
address it.
why we wouldn't annex the whole piece
Yeah.
and
okay.
break it apart?
Well, that was again back to the question of the merger agreement. Merger agreement says no water and sewer services outside the red line area you have outlined there. By the agreement that was signed I think it was 2002, with the merger of the system with the city of Raleigh. This is in the Little River watershed, and if we annex it, the question is we are not able to provide water and sewer services to it. So any areas that are outside the ETJ boundary, we can't do it. So it's a question, I think that's part of the annexation question, that when you annex property, there is the right of the petitioner to ask for water and sewer services. But I'm gonna leave that up to council to address that question. But that was the reason it was essentially left out. Now, they will be restricting the property outside this area to basically open space, except for about a portion of the acreage that may be developed as soon as something in the county, but it will be without Rolesville's water and sewer services. Sorry to get it confusing. I'll leave
You said
it.
it'll be developed by the county?
It would be in the county's planning and zoning jurisdiction. But we will be able to restrict the property under the conservation subdivision to include the acreage to get their 25% open space. We can show you more when we get to that stage of the preliminary. Preliminary is just moving forward to get to the planning board and come to you later.
So we haven't seen a site plan,
No, you have not.
okay? This would be a lot easier to do if we could see a site plan. I would like, as far as voluntary annexation, if we saw a site plan and we could see how it was related to the property, and if that part is open space, then I think we're entitled to the taxes on it. I've got reservations about this,
so
about
is
the
it-
way it's presented.
So was it a recommendation of the town to do it this way, or the developer?
Planning board.
Planning
It was discussion with, as we were looking with the developer, with the manager and the TRC and other staff about the question about services. And I recall previously with David York in previous conversations about it's a matter of decision of how we're going to address the services question for water and sewer. But the preliminary plan does take a portion of this property, and it will be placed in conservation to meet the open space to get that conservation requirement that when you see that subdivision. But there will be a portion of the land that's not restricted, adjacent primarily in this area, right in here, that could be used for other purposes. There's been discussion of different things, but there's no definitive answer.
I like definitive answers. So if we're making a decision And we're sitting here with question marks on our forehead. My question mark got bigger on your second answer. So if we got a question mark, I think we need to get those cleared up so that we're making an informed decision.
So you would prefer to have the preliminary plat come to you with the annexation?
Well, I'm back to the legal question that Dave
Well, that would
said.
also leave it allowed.
Yeah, that is one that's sticking to me as far as annexing all of it versus a portion of leaving those portions out.
Yeah.
To me, that needs to be exhausted before we.
I guess, Dave, do you understand the question that we're trying to?
I understand the question. I do not know the history as to how this process came through the town or how this came to be the policy of the town. And again, whether it's a policy
Or practice.
whether it's an interlocal agreement with the city of Raleigh, I just do not know. And so I'd ask to have the time to look into that so I can provide you the information you need. You always have the opportunity to continue the hearing to a date certain. That might also allow for time for the rest of their application to catch up.
Yes. I like that idea.
So do we have a policy to state what you said, the way it's going here?
A
Do we have
policy
to state?
we have a policy that anything that's served by the town has to be in the town limits. And in the merger agreement, it specifies that. But the merger agreement also restricts our ability to annex beyond this red line in these areas
Okay, so.
here and here.
So you said annex, if I heard you, the
We
agreement
provide
said.
water and sewer service, excuse me.
Yeah, I know that for a fact, but you said we can't annex for any reason.
I don't think it even says annexation, it says water and sewer services, but annexation is required under the agreement for, Rolesville asks for that. Raleigh cannot connect water or sewer services without the properties being in the town limits. And that's what this is about, is to be able to develop this site.
But that piece is in our ETJ.
The whole piece.
What is in red, what's shown here in red, outlined in red, is in the ETJ.
So that dip is not in our ETJ?
The dip is not in the ETJ, here and this.
So we,
That's when we agreed to the watershed merger. And at that time, we accepted what the line was, and we did not have any, that's what the ETJ was, and that's what it's always been. Since we signed that agreement.
so we can't annex it if it's not in our ETJ, can we?
Sure we can.
We
It'd be
can.
an involuntary.
This is annexation by petition, yes.
Okay.
Now, petitioners didn't petition it because of the discussions we just had.
Water, sewer.
All right, well, let's,
Now,
that's,
and you can, sir, like I can say, you can continue this hearing, ask for an answer, and then address it at another night. I do know that they're wanting to close on the property, which annexation was part of it.
okay. Let's hear the comments from the public in opposition. Is there anybody speak in opposition of this annexation? Come on
Not
up, George.
necessarily in opposition, but a concern. We've had an issue with the developers, the folks doing the development study, crossing into our property. We had to call the sheriff, and there's someone else that's going to court this coming Friday for trespassing. We would like to minimize that possibility. Okay?
Understand.
Thank you.
Anybody else, comments from the public in opposition? All right, I can close the public hearing, or let's discuss it for a minute to get a feel of where you guys want to go. Because, you know, it's a real clear annexation except for this piece that we're carving out.
So that piece that's being carved out, that's gonna be used, what did you say that was gonna be used for?
Open space.
Okay.
To help them meet their requirement of 25%.
So it's part of the subdivision, but it's not part of, it won't be part of the town.
Oh,
You know,
so wait a second.
So, you know, I don't think the agreement keeps us from doing all the rest of the services we do for town, right? I mean, if we annex it, we have the police and everything else. It's just that you can't get water lines to it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with annexing it like that as long as we have the right, you know, because this is by petition, to go back and say, you know, when the site plan's approved or whatever, we want that dip. We want that too in our, and are we allowed to do that, Mr. Attorney?
I would be concerned about trying to compel a voluntary annexation.
Okay.
The applicant is here. We might want to talk about that during the public hearing while it's still open.
Now's the time.
Well, the applicant's not here.
That is
think we
unfortunate
need-
for the applicant.
I think we need to continue this and have the applicant come to us.
I agree with Jackie because I still have
Yeah, if we have
questions
questions about
on
it,
how
then,
that,
yeah.
Yeah.
so if that would help them meet the requirement, then that means everything that they put inside of there, they don't have to do anything extra in terms of greens. Also, they're just gonna pile houses on top of houses possibly within
Now,
that.
that we don't know because we haven't seen the
Right,
site.
but I'm saying, but by using that extra piece on the outside to fulfill that requirement,
Yeah, it's all houses until you get to the green space.
exactly.
It helped them.
So,
Okay,
I think we should
Kelly, you
continue
have a
that.
comment or any?
I don't think I have any value comment other than it is going to be open space. And I don't know what the tax benefit would be to the town. And the only thing we'd be out there administering is shooting of guns in open space. And I'm not certain that's such a great perspective to have. So I don't know I don't know what the value of being in town is, but you can come to that determination when that time comes if you'd like to continue it. I think we looked at it as such as an open area that's probably appropriate to be in the county and such. But if there is some value, we could probably ask them what could be, or we could run the figures to see if there's a property tax valuation that sways you otherwise. But for an open space component, I'm not certain exactly what could be the value to town. There will be a greenway proposed in this. That could be of interest to make sure that we have the ability to we're going to maintain it. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now, so I don't think I really have any added value to your conversation. So if you have more questions than answers, you want to continue it, that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think it sounds like to me there was a mental model been formed that we cannot annex in the watershed. And that's the central question. If we cannot, we cannot. Right? And but in this case, we're saying that we cannot, and I'm not sure that we know that.
Yeah.
We probably have told somebody that they cannot, not to annex that, So, no.
As a legal question, this was their opportunity to present the petition they wanted to present for the development that we believe they will eventually bring forward to you. And that's about all we can say as a legal question. They voluntarily have brought this forward, and as a legal matter, it qualifies for annexation. Whether additional property could also qualify for annexation, I'm not in a position to tell you right yet.
And ultimately, it's your opportunity to tell us and future annexers what your position is going to be, if this is of interest to you to formulate a position on this, because I'm not certain you've had a position policy discussion on something like this. So this might be,
My knowledge.
to some level, setting policy. So, and that's okay.
Is it typical for the petitioner to not be here for something like this? I'm just getting a little confused on when they are and when they aren't.
Danny, was there any response to that?
Ted Whitley is the developer that's involved here. The family members are out of state. He's the one that obtained the petitions from the property owner, and he had a schedule conflict that he could not be here tonight. But he had Tyler, who's with the engineering firm, to speak on his behalf, to answer any questions. But this is a question, obviously, I don't think that he's able to assist in answering.
I can answer to some of the site plan stuff, but the legality of whether that can be annexed or not, I'm not sure. I do know it is open space, I do know. The site plan does include the greenway that Danny and Kelly mentioned. Smack dab in the middle of it, if I can I use this? Yeah. There's a thoroughfare that is proposed for the future from Jones Dairy down to, I'm not sure what this road is right there.
Town Road.
That this development will be building part of. There was talked about it maybe being back here due to an environmental study that the town is doing. But this development would be putting forth, I think it's near 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet of that thoroughfare. The length of this greenway is even further back here that would be building. This is open space back here. This area back here in the ETJ is also, or is not going to be developed with lots, so it's going to be available back there. What the town chooses to do with that, I'm not sure. This parcel, or this annexation wasn't carved out by the annexation, it was carved out by the ETJ. It just follows that ETJ line. And the lots will be R40W lots back here, and R2 lots up there. Without speaking too much about the site plan, that's going to be coming later. I know that. It's a whole separate hearing. I can answer some more if I...
And some of it's been approved, right? I think that first part, didn't we approve that before?
Yeah, there was a rezoning done that changed it just the way the streets lined up there. It was rezoned along that line so that there wasn't cross-zoning across lots.
Yeah, so I think we're obligated to annex at least some of it.
Yeah.
But in probably all of it, he's gotten rid there. The only question I have, is what is our stance on the piece that's outside?
Well,
'Cause, Wake County will control it if we don't.
Wake County controls it, and I'm not sure Wake County will give up their land, for us to expand our ETJ. I know we've had issues before, where, certain municipalities would, wanted to talk about expanding their ETJ and give and take, and it didn't go well. And it usually doesn't go well because they don't want to do it. We may be into something here that we cannot do, but we don't know.
I think that's what we're trying to clarify.
We don't know, and I would feel better if we could get some answers.
Me too.
And if you could, I'd like to continue it, but I don't want to continue it to next month because we've already got 3, unless we're going to do it at the second session next month. We can do it then, rather than the first session.
Can we do it at workshop coming
Yeah.
up?
I don't think it'll take that long once we get our answers.
A couple weeks from now.
I think April
You get
had-
a full night in 2 weeks, and you get a full night to work session in April.
I just hate to pile stuff into the work session because you never know how that's gonna change as we get closer to it. So that would put it into May or April? That would put it into May, correct?
Yeah.
Wait 60 days.
Yeah.
Just pausing for a minute. Did you have a question, April, for Tyler? I heard you say.
I was gonna ask about the area out there, the red little
Oh,
beauty section out there.
Yes.
You said that homes are not gonna be developed in that area right there?
there would be another stream crossing. Just environmentally, it didn't make sense to cross that.
Gotcha.
Also, these being gravity sewer lots, you'd only put one lot back there if you did.
What do you want to,
So you said we can or cannot get it on the March agenda?
I think we can minimally do an update where we stand on this in March. We could probably continue the public hearing, see if we have any answers. That gives you at least the continuation, gives us momentum to keep on working on it. I'm sure the developer would appreciate that.
I agree.
So I would recommend, at least for now, if you're considering it, to continue for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think it was, Betty, did you want to say something? Public hearing is still open. You got to come up. to come up here.
So we're putting it on in the works,
Huh?
we're putting it into the
Yeah,
work
in
session.
2 weeks from now. State your name and address, Betty, for the record.
Betty Freeman, 524 Everett Road. Lived next to that property off and on all my life. That property has a 12-acre pond on it, which is part of the problem with developing it, because it is a very swampy area. You can't put anything there.
You talking about the piece we're conflicted about, the dip?
Part of it, yeah. It's 12 acres in that pond, and it is fed by natural streams. And,
How doesn't it show on the aerial?
I don't know, but it's there.
12-acre pond is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one up there in the corner, if you see it.
It's right up on that, yeah.
At the top right?
Where's the pond at?
You're fine. I think what she's referring to is this area right in here.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, now, that's not the piece in,
It's in the annexation.
no,
There's
that's not
another
in
one
the
up
dip.
at the top too, right?
Yeah.
Up top.
Then there's one
Top right,
over
yeah.
here,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, so what happens
But
to the
that's not
pond?
on that property.
but it's not on that property.
it's not on the property. Okay.
First one is, that one.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happens to the pond, Danny?
Pond's part of the
Sitting
overall
right there.
plan, and it'll be an HOA and their conservation to maintain it.
Oh, okay, so they're not
No,
getting.
pond's not gonna go.
But when they originally presented this, Teddy Whitley presented the project, that area was gonna be like a park area. And there was gonna be a lot of vacant property.
We hadn't seen that yet, so.
We saw it last summer. It's presented right over here in this room.
Okay.
But that pond is fed by natural springs. It'll never go dry.
Thank you, Betty. We're going to probably continue this thing, I believe, if I get a motion on what to do here. So what's the flavor of the board? Do I hear a
Close,
motion?
if you close the public hearing.
No, I'm going to leave it open if we,
Okay,
We
all right,
continue it.
all right.
I'll make a motion.
Please.
Do I need to read the thing?
No.
I make a motion that we continue this public hearing on A20-01 Chandler's Ridge annexation
to March the,
to March 17th.
Second.
okay? I think Jackie was first, so got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I would say between Danny and Kelly, you guys talk to the folks and find out what the deal is, and Dave, if you would, let's get an answer to the question the board is asking.
I'll get you an answer this week.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you for coming. Okay, next item. Public hearing, bond issue for Thales Academy. I open the public hearing. And who's introducing this?
Mr. Mayor, Lisa Williams from the McGuire Woods Law Firm representing Thales Academy. She represents them as their bond counsel, which is why this matters before you today.
Okay, thank you. Come up, introduce yourself, state your name and address.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lisa Williams, McGuire Woods. My address is 2711 Bucknell Avenue of Charlotte, North Carolina. Today I'm before you on behalf of Thales Academy. They are in the process of requesting that the Public Finance Authority out of Wisconsin assist them with the financing and refinancing of some projects with respect to a number of their facilities in North Carolina, including one here in the town. They are refinancing a series of 2014 bonds that were previously issued by the North Carolina Capital Facilities Finance Agency in 2014. This particular bond issue is being refinanced. It originally financed the construction and equipping of a middle school and high school here in the town. The facilities are both up and running, but pursuant to the Internal Revenue Code, when a issuer goes to finance or refinance a project, the local governing body needs to sign off on the conduit issuer's issuance of those bonds. It is of no obligation of the town. There's no liability to the town, but the IRS does require that the local governing body for where the project is located has an opportunity to hold a public hearing for their citizens and to otherwise sign off. So that is why we are before you today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe I just didn't understand the language here.
Yes.
But in, I'm assuming you have what I have here. It says, whereas in the section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, down there, you skip a couple of lines down, and it says, by the authority of the finance or refinance a project located in the town may only be issued after the approval of the plan of financing of the project by the Board of Commissioners of the town of Rolesville following a public hearing with respect to this. Does this mean that you have to bring the public back in, or is this the public hearing that this is referring to?
This is the public hearing that it's referring to, correct. So there was an original public hearing for when a deal was originally done in 2014. Because of the way they're amortizing the refinancing of it, the Internal Revenue Code requires that we go back through the entire process. But, you know, when there's an original construction, there's a public hearing, and that was done in 2014. And so, but because the way this is being restructured, this is the public hearing it's referring to. So it gives the citizens an opportunity. So it was published in the paper. It gives the citizens an opportunity to comment. It's a little strange, if you will, when you're doing a refinancing because it's already built. So that sometimes is the question, right? It makes more sense when it's a new financing for something that is vacant and then is being built. But the IRS code, this is the way it reads.
Is it pretty much just to give notice that this is happening?
Correct. Correct.
So what happened if the town said no?
Then they could not refinance that particular bond issue and have their savings. So they're doing this for debt service savings, restructuring their debt. So yes, they would not be able to proceed.
And we have no financial obligation.
Correct.
I repeat that for the public, and we have no financial obligation.
Zero. You're very welcome.
I'm good.
And you reviewed this, Danny? David?
I have. You have my memo in the package, and I agree with Ms. Williams' conclusions. Not only are we not shouldering any liability for this obligation, our approval, it's a misnomer. We are recognizing it, that it is occurring, but we are not giving our endorsement to it as an idea or as a strategy for the school. This is entirely their choice. But this is an opportunity to have this public hearing.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is any comments from the public in favor? Any comments from the public in opposition? Not hearing any, I'll close the public hearing. What would be the desire of the board?
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve the resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Rolesville, North Carolina, approving in principle the issuance of not to exceed $40 million of Public Finance Authority educational facility revenue bonds for Thales Academy Project Series 2020.
Second.
Yeah, have a motion, second? Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Thank you very much. Motion pass. Next item is review of Farm Master Plan, McAdams.
Mayor, Board of Commissioners, thank you. Rachel Cotter is with us from McAdams and is going to do this presentation. Just give me 1 second, I'll get it loaded for you.
I didn't even recognize you, Rachel, because last time I saw you, right? Oh my God. Has it been a year? Is your baby a year yet?
She is just now 7 months.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
I also cut off all my hair, so.
I noticed that too just now. I was like, okay.
This is my mom cut. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here this evening to present an update to the Frasier Farm Park Master Plan. We're hoping to be wrapping this up at the end of the month and coming before you one final time. But in the meantime, we did want to let you know the progress that we've been making. So in terms of the project process, we are at that red arrow right there. We've completed our site due diligence. We've developed a capacity study. There was a question at the beginning of the project about how much of this land could actually be developed, given it is in a water supply watershed, and there are limits on impervious. We've gone through the concept development, so looked at a number of alternatives for the park and narrowed that down into one final concept plan. Right now, we are finalizing the master plan, and that entails also developing a detailed cost estimate, phasing plan, and implementation plan. So tonight I'm going to be presenting the final master plan that we developed as a team in coordination with the town staff and stakeholders. The cost estimate, what we are recommending as an initial phase one, of course, pending the discussion of costs and implementation. We are finalizing the implementation plan and also finalizing a pro forma. I'll talk a little bit about what that will provide you with as a community later in the presentation. And then next steps moving forward that are outside of what we are under contract to perform, but would be the design of your detailed construction drawings, your permitting, your bid phase services, your contract negotiations with the contractor, and then of course construction. So I think you've seen this slide in the past, but I just wanted to recap real quick. We're incredibly excited about where the project is headed, especially given some of the site constraints that were concerning from the beginning, and I know concerning to you all in terms of having this piece of property and wondering what you could possibly do with it. But we've dug in deep, and we've overcome a lot of those site constraints, some of which being in this water supply watershed, a maximum impervious limit of 12%. Also not being able to extend water and sewer into the park, although we have provided preliminary engineering for a septic system and the drilling of water wells. We have also met with Public Works in the city of Raleigh, and as long as we are not asking them to, or the town is not asking them to provide sanitary sewer or water, they don't anticipate any challenges with the annexation into the town's jurisdiction and the site being supplied by septic system and water wells. There are some natural features which have some buffers, some environmental protection regulations governing those. There's also a cultural resource assessment done, and they did find some archaeological remains, which is actually a really exciting part of the project. And I later in the process will talk to you a little bit about how we think we can attract the public and use that for some of the programming. But there's a lot of opportunities on the site for agritourism, for tourism in general, for programmed athletic facilities. There's gentle rolling topography. It's proposed along a greenway corridor, so hopefully some additional options for pedestrian access. Ideally located on 401, so you're getting a lot of traffic, a lot of regional traffic through the area. Great stopping point into or out of Wake County for things like festivals, athletic tournaments, and the like. So we did complete this capacity study, which basically says out of this total acreage here, how much can you develop? What is that 12% impervious? What does that look like? And that was about 13.07 acres of impervious development. So that's things like, I'm sorry, yep.
Can I go back 1 minute? And I agree with with what you have said, but under restraints, it says that additional vehicular access points will require DOT approval or an access easement from property owners. Getting DOT approval for a curb cut on a 4-lane road is next to impossible. Do we understand that?
Well, that was a question I was gonna be asking on here.
Okay.
Jared and I have from last month.
I mean, that's going to be a huge challenge, I mean, on getting in and out. You know, that really concerns me.
On our existing property,
I mean, as is now.
as it is now.
Yes.
The ore is more likely.
Adjacent, and that is, you're talking about off of 96.
That's right.
maybe.
Talking about also there is another curb cut or two up further.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
So a total of 13 acres of impervious allowed. So that's your parking lots, your buildings. Synthetic turf on athletic fields is also considered impervious. So all that was taken into account when we developed the master plan and its concept alternatives. So this is what we developed for the final master plan. Again, we moved through a number of concept alternatives to nail down the concept that both met the town's needs and also was well received by staff and the community. There are, I think I do have a pointer here. The archaeological remains were found up in this corner here, and of course some down by the house. So we simply cannot impact those zones, but we do have a formal report on our way from our archaeologist stating exactly what the remains were. It's actually, I think, a really exciting finding. They're prehistoric remains, some pottery, they're really small chips, but some pottery and some flakes from the tools that are used to make tools, so no arrowheads or anything, but this could very much factor into the programming of the site. Agritourism has become incredibly popular in the area given the agricultural heritage of North Carolina and across the Piedmont, but there's very little in the way of archaeological programming, so we think that could be an attraction that would draw regional visitors in the area through some sort of interpretive or heritage trails. This does have a very diverse set of amenities to appeal to a lot of the community needs. We did use the findings from the Comprehensive Parks and Master Plan to inform the amenities that you see here. We also know that athletics is a big need and that there's a lot of opportunities for tournaments and tournament play. So there are a lot of revenue generating facilities on this site, which is really exciting for you. The event lawn and event center, using and retaining the historic buildings out on site, and again doing something in the way of an interpretive trail, education, history, culture at that site, honoring the agricultural history of the site through some orchards, but also agritourism, which can range anything from small community gardens all the way through a farm incubator. So what that actually looks like and the programming around it will need to be developed a little bit further. Those are the primary elements. There's also a component of maintenance and a maintenance building to serve all the maintenance needs here, minimizing that windshield time for your staff, and also a series of trail networks. Right now, these are a combination of natural surface and asphalt. We've had some suggestions by the Recreation Advisory Board for some additional trail typologies, whether that's cycling, pump tracks, and also some regional connections with the trails.
You say pump tracks?
Yes. Are you familiar?
What are the three rectangles on the bottom left, I guess?
Multi-use fields. So those can be used for not only soccer, but any emerging athletics, football, lacrosse, you name it. So a lot of these spaces are intended to be flexible, so we're kind of time-proofing the park in that as recreation trends evolve and change, that there will be flexible spaces for the town to evolve their programming with those trends as well. There's also an amphitheater. That was the other thing that I didn't mention, and that's right in alignment with the event lawn and the event center here. Initially, the amphitheater was tucked over here, and there was hopes of views to the ponds. We do want to point out that that location is on a ridge, and we also have a 50-foot buffer around the pond and the streams that we can't cut the trees down, so even if it stayed there, I don't know that we'd get those romantic views to the ponds that we were hoping for. But where it is, it's nestled right against the backdrop of the woods, so I think there's a really naturalistic backdrop that we can still achieve there.
Any parts of that amphitheater going to be covered?
I'm sorry?
Is there any parts that will be covered?
Yes. And I've got a few images of the renderings from the amphitheater that I'll share with you. So this is a possible phase one. And the key to the phase one is the amount of infrastructure that will need to be developed to get you into the park, to provide the septic and water wells for the park, both for any irrigation of the fields, but also public consumption, parking, lighting. Those are going to be your big expenses, probably bigger expenses than even some of your program elements. We're leaving the back half of the park for future phases, and also this area here is kind of a to-be-determined flex space for any future recreation needs that might arise. One other thing to consider, and reason for including this back half as the phase two, is this pond. Actually, both the dams of both ponds are in relatively poor condition. They will need to be repaired if you are going to keep the ponds. If you do keep the ponds, the elevation of this road has to be at the elevation of the pond or higher. Otherwise, it's considered a high hazard dam, which...
You determined whether the ponds were spring fed or streams fed?
I believe they're stream, given the streams that run into them. They're old irrigation ponds. So there is a process if the town were to elect to breach the dams and drain the ponds. It would save a number of costs for rebuilding the dams, but also there's two very large culverts and a lot of fill that's required to put this road at an elevation at which you would not be considered a high hazard dam. So those are some pretty big considerations, and we wanted those to be part of a phase two discussion.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, just so I understand, just help me to understand. Jackie said that in order to gain entrance to the park from 401, that is highly unlikely. Is that what you said?
We have one curb cut in there. So getting another curb cut is going to be almost impossible.
So there's only one entrance into this whole park and one exit for the whole park.
DOT though. Yeah, from DOT.
All events, hundreds of people, all of that, one entrance and one exit to the whole park.
Yep, so that is one challenge as it is right now. Kelly mentioned some offline conversations about potential easement acquisition or even property acquisition to have an additional exit off on this road back here and out. This is 96, I believe,
Yes,
if I'm turned
96.
the right way here to the intersection with 401, kind of over here.
Or another 401 exit.
Yes, and so this is a little bit of a relocated. Right now, the entrance is right here. And because this is kind of a sacred space, we asked DOT if they would consider moving the entrance. They were open to that discussion, so we're showing that at this master plan level. Moving here, we can continue to have the conversation with them about an additional exit point. And Kelly, you're saying that would be if additional
I'm saying
land.
most likely is that one that's on the map that has a house on it.
I gotcha, yeah.
If that's the case, you'll have to build a road where the trees are to connect and make it internal.
Which house are you pointing to? The top, the one in the top?
The one on 401?
The one right there.
Is it
one
the
I'm looking
adjacent?
at.
Yeah.
More better.
It's off of 401.
Big house, big house. There you go. That one.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You can use that mouse to point to.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's a bigger pointer. Yeah.
Bet you that house calls millions. Suddenly.
I think at one time we reflected that, those trees that grow would have to be readjusted, to make a kind of a circle drive to connect those two.
Gotcha.
The existing curb cut, I have no idea what width it is, but is it possible to get it wider?
It is.
It is, good.
Everything's
It's
60.
it's not adequate now for anything, by the way. It's a farm grade entry, 40?
I think we have 60.
Yeah, what
existing,
DOT
but it's
what
not-
DOT
it's
allows.
not
60 foot,
entrance, though.
60-foot width?
Yep.
That's wonderful.
60-foot width, but right now it's existing like 30, 20, it's just a farm.
And that little house has a 60 too.
Okay, okay.
You'll still need a driveway permit and an encroachment permit, but since this is already existing, it's a lot easier to push through. So here are some not precedent images, actual renderings of the architect's vision for the structures in the park. This is the amphitheater. There are a couple of options, both to have a roof on the structure and a backdrop or no backdrop. And there you can see the forest and the mature tree stand as the focal point in the back. This is the maintenance building and concessions building. All of the architecture is trying to take on that old farmhouse type look to maintain and preserve that agricultural heritage of the site. A couple more options in terms of the backdrop for the amphitheater. And also keep in mind that these could be moving panels, so you could choose your backdrop as you wanted it. And here's the event center. And
I'm sorry, Rachel, when I had asked about the covered, I saw this, but I guess what I should have said was, is that just the basic cup, the basic rooftop for this? Because it seems like for 900 people, I know it's a rendering, just doesn't seem like it really makes it.
So,
Are you talking about audience, or are you talking about, this is just to cover the stage?
Yes.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be any audience coverage.
No, I'm
yeah.
talking about
Okay.
the stage.
Right.
It seems a little skimpy.
yeah, so we're also thinking that to start out with, the amphitheater will likely only host around 400 people, especially for the events that you're hosting today. So the building might also be a phased approach, starting at a smaller scale. We did look at some precedents all the way from, Carrie's Coca Booth to some local smaller amphitheaters. This will also come with a lot of the AV and sound systems, so you can host events that require sound, music, audio, visual, that kind of thing. But at the master planning level, we're planning for about 400, and then once we nail down a little bit more into the program and the types of events in the next phase of the project, I think some of those details will begin to shine through.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify, I did see that, but.
Sure. The event center, so looking to host community events, whether it's weddings or recreational programming and educational opportunities, seminars, classes, you name it. There is a direct connection on that access to both the event center and the amphitheater, so plenty of room for spillover. We have been talking about a 90-mile service radius for the park, the event center, some of the athletics, so trying to draw people within the greater Wake County and Franklin County area specifically, possibly some folks for certain events from a little bit further away. I wanted to show you the floor plan of this too. So the event space with a dedicated storage area that can be accessed from the event space, and also a full commercial kitchen and concessions on the back end. So this building can serve indoor for the event space, but also outdoors for any exterior spaces. And then restrooms as well, all under the cover of a roof, so people don't have to walk outside if it were to be raining. The architect might have, and I can get you that.
Mine,
Was it set as a goal, or was it set as a site facility?
It might have been. I don't know that I think I was still out when they started their work. Do you know if they were given an occupancy goal?
No, I think we were shooting around 5,000 square foot.
Okay. A kitchen would require a grease trap, right? All right. I didn't think you could put a grease trap on a septic tank.
That's a good question. Let me ask our septic designer.
But that you need an answer on that one. Okay. Thank you.
This would be the concession and restroom combined building in the middle of the athletic fields. I just want to go back to the master plan real quick. So one trend we're seeing in athletics is instead of being a traditional wagon wheel that you might be familiar with is opening up this central core. You're able to add an additional field, but this is what we call a park within a park. So there are a lot of amenities in this central core, whether it be the restrooms, the concessions, this play area, plaza area, where anyone who's not a bat and ball enthusiast, but who has to come here to support family or relatives, has a place to play, has a place to exercise. So you're able to accommodate people of all ages and all ability levels. So in that core is where this building and also a press box up top would sit. These are just some additional precedent images from similar parks, more speaking to some of the site elements than the architecture.
Are any of those parks in this area?
Um,
On the far right over there, for instance, with all the ball fields?
This one? You know, there's a similar one west of here. I'm not exactly sure where these were taken from specifically, but I can find out for you. It's a very similar model anyway to what we're proposing.
Close enough that we could just go take a look.
And then what you've all been waiting for, I'm sure, is how much is this going to cost and how are we going to pay for it? The initial estimate for the full build out of the park is at $21 million, just over. A couple things about the cost estimate. First of all, it does include a 30% contingency. So there's 30% of this cost in contingency. We've all seen the rise in construction cost over the year. At McAdams, we really pride ourselves on the detail that we include in our cost estimates. Escalation is another key factor. Our phase one, we escalated out till 2020. I know that there's still some discussions about 2021, about when you might construct the park, but that's something to keep in mind. It's about 4.5% a year right now. We also have things in here like general contractors overhead and profit, your soft costs, so anything that you need to pull your permits, all of your consulting and engineering fees, anything to get to that bid phase services before the contractor even prices the project. Again, your earth moving and your infrastructure is a significant cost. You see this number in fields being the largest. A lot of that number is moving dirt. To get fields in that flat playing surface, moving earth is going to be your biggest cost. We also have one of your fields as synthetic turf. So right now these are priced as some of your more high-end tournament-ready athletic fields. There are ways to value engineer those, but if you are talking about travel tournaments and travel ball, there are certain features that we've included you'll want to include in the costs for those. You have a large trail system, so at about just under $4 million just for asphalt trails, and that includes your grading, your materials. It also includes any permitting for any stream crossings, any footbridges. But there's also an opportunity here to look at some less costly trail surfaces, natural surfaces. This is also thinking that it might be relatively ADA compliant, which involves a lot more grading. So there are some value engineering options there as well. Your structures includes all of your buildings for the full build out of the park. There's a dog park, so that's just a small additional program element. Parking is another one of the significant costs. We're seeing parking spaces up around $5,000 a spot right now. And that includes for your drive aisles, all of your materials, and that is an asphalt parking spot. There are ways to bring costs down by having some gravel spots and some asphalt spots, of course, including those for ADA accessibility, but that is a big infrastructure cost.
Oh, you
And-
said $5,000 a spot for a parking spot?
That's all in. So that's for design, grading, permitting, all of your that includes your drive aisles as well. Your asphalt cost, your subgrade.
What's the pervious impervious factor in this project?
We are right up around, we have a 13% maximum, or I mean, I'm sorry, 12% maximum, 13 acres, and we're pushing that 13 acre limit for impervious. And then your infrastructure.
Affect the cost, does it?
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
if we went to gravel or something like that, it would minimize it.
I know, but right now, the way you're having it, that would be a cost savings, right?
Yes, that would be a cost
But
savings.
the way you're doing it today,
You're using
there is
asphalt in the example.
the location or the watershed is not affecting the cost, right? It's just.
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, except for included in your infrastructure costs are all of your septic fields and drilling of your water wells. So instead of the cost of extending water and sewer, you're absorbing the cost of the alternative infrastructure.
Right. Naturally, you had more costs in land because you got some you're not using, but.
And that last infrastructure number does include some preliminary costs for the septic systems, for drilling of your water wells, and any of your other utilities. So the phase one cost estimate is about 16.2 million.
And that has the 30% factor in it.
It does. All of our cost estimates have the 30% contingency. That's pretty regular, and it also has escalation through 2021.
So if we did phase one today, it would be closer to 10 million.
If you don't need the contingency. So contingency covers things like subsurface. If we hit rock blasting, you want to do some geotechnical investigations first, or unsuitable soils.
So no soil test or rock borings have been done.
We have done a preliminary soil survey, especially to base the septic off of. But once you have your locations, you don't want to do your actual borings until you have your finalized locations of your project elements. So where there are foundations for buildings, for example, that's when we'll go out and do a core drill to understand what the bearing capacity is for your buildings.
Are those costs already built into this?
They are included as your soft costs. So those are things like your geotechnical investigation. There is a relatively recent site survey, but there might, depending on how old it is, there might be some costs associated with survey, and then all of your engineering, planning costs to get permits. And there are a lot of permits on this one. Anything from the NCD driveway permit, your local site development permit, a sedimentation and erosion control, and then your permitting for the septic system and all of your drinking water wells.
So it sounds like that you guys have thought of everything that could possibly go in here, and all of those costs are already included in the soft costs, and
That's
that
correct.
nothing has been left out.
That's our goal. Yes.
I was thinking, it sounds like you're including everything, so I just wanted to double check.
Yes. And also at a relatively high level of what we call fixtures and finishes. So, there's always a varying degree of how you can build a field or a building. You can make it really high end, or you could make it the more cost effective end. So once we understand what some of the budget constraints and limitations are, we'll go through an exercise to actually define what those materials are and how we might bring some cost effective measures to the project, if that's what we're directed to do.
So this is top dollar parts
Yes,
that you've
that's
given
right.
us.
Top dollar. Yes, ma'am.
Rachel, remind me, Phil's lit, or Phil's lit.
Yes. Yep. So we also wanted to provide you with some funding opportunities. Grant opportunities are definitely on the table. I will say that grants have become more and more competitive over the years, especially Part F. We do a number of Part F grant applications. They are the kind of 1,000-pound gorilla for Parks and Recreation grants. The maximum right now is $500,000 with a $500,000 match. So you're starting to see that $1 million isn't going to take the project to where you need it to be for phase one. It will help you with some of the initial project elements and amenities, but when we start thinking of things like the costs for the initial infrastructure to get people to the site, to provide them with water and sanitary sewer, all of the parking and earth moving, those are the significant costs of the project. So we did want to present a couple other options. These are also all included in our comprehensive plan. So having a suite or a diverse approach to funding of the park is going to help you strengthen your opportunities. Anything from corporate sponsors, partnerships, so public-private partnerships, or simply public partnerships with other entities. Starting a foundation for the park, having private donations, naming rights, so every field could have, such and such field, and that entity would be providing a donation, advertising sales, capital fees, a bond referendum, and then the last one I have on here is direct revenue. And I put that last because one of the things that we will be providing is a pro forma for the project. We're hoping to have that finalized by the end of March. The pro forma is going to be for a 5-year period, and it's taking into account the initial capital investment for the phase one. It's going to be looking at the operational costs of the park. So, there's capital investment, and then there's the cost to run and operate the park. It's also going to look at any cost for programming of the park. And then finally, it is going to be looking at direct revenue opportunities for the park. So that's the exciting part of the park. It is an exciting park, but direct revenues from fees, ticket sales, admissions, reservations, any programming out here that JG might want to have some new programs or advertising for. So there is going to be a revenue component to the phase one. So we'll be looking forward to that at the end of March.
I'm sorry, how does that work though? If your park is not up and running, how do you count that? I missed that.
Yeah, great question. It's estimated, so because of the number of projects that Pros Consulting, who worked with us on the operational and financial piece for the comprehensive plan, they're doing the pro forma, and they have databases from all over the country about the costs for different maintenance levels. So, athletic fields is a really high maintenance level, whereas some of the open areas, the naturalistic areas, are really low maintenance areas. So they kind of break it up into zones. They base everything off of data that JG has been providing in terms of his maintenance plans and how much he's paying his staff. And then in terms of revenue, we're working with Pros and JG to identify what the typical costs are for some of the programs, and some of the more philosophical things like, do you ever want to charge for events or ticket sales? And then do we need a gate at the amphitheater? Or a ticket booth. So the other thing to think about the pro forma is that it's going to help inform the next level of design. So if Pros comes up with some ways that we can generate revenue that perhaps the design team hasn't thought about, there's an opportunity for us to refine the design in the next phases of the project to make sure we're including the most revenue producing activities as possible. So that is the end of the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So what happens next, JG? Real fast, one more, we come back with the final and review and perform.
Correct. Pros is working on the performer. Once we get that and the archaeology study Rachel and McAdams will put it all together in one final package for us, and we'll come back and present that as a final presentation to the board for adoption of the site master plan.
I guess one question, JG, if I can phrase this pretty good. It looks like phase one is two big components. You got the ball fields and you got the community activities place. And that's, you treating that as one phase. You know, as a choice of the board, we may not be able to do both pieces. Is it a way to unbundle it in a way that we can see the performer for each of them and see the cost of each of them?
Components.
Yeah, so, you know, hope not, but if it comes down to a decision that we have to make a choice, I'd rather make a choice of us, you know, one side or the other than make a choice we can't do anything, you know. So the question is how, right now, everything is bundled together in that one phase at,
16
what was
million.
it, 16 million. Is it a way that we could, and it looks like, you know, the way it's designed, it's almost two components, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe ball fields have a priority.
Right, and Rachel and I have actually talked about that too. If we can kind of maybe break it out a little bit and say, all right, here's phase one is just athletic fields. Here's phase one if it's just the event center and event lawn too. And because I think the pro forma is going to be that big driver in the revenue. What's going to generate more revenue that may help offset the operation cost. And so that's something we have talked about and talked with pros about. Last week, I believe we talked about that.
Right. And if we have to make that decision, at least we'll be able to look at that.
Yes,
And we've also got to remember, if we do the ball fields first, that saves us revenue from having to rent the ones we're renting now, right?
We currently don't rent fields. We have level 4 agreements with Wake County Public Schools where we're responsible for maintenance and maintaining those facilities.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So I'm just asking the board, I think, you know, if that can be done, I think it'd be good to have that.
I think that makes
Ronnie, I
perfect
agree.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Very good. Thank you. Next item, progress review of strategic plan. This is Rick's baby here, so come on up, Rick. Tell us where we're at.
I think it's your baby.
You're going to make it our baby after tonight, is that what it is?
That's exactly right. I'm low tech.
Okay.
Thank you. Mayor Commissioners, thank you. Kelly, thank you. Amy, thank you. Here to give an update on where we are on the strategic planning process, and also to kind of get some input from you all on 2 or 3 things and see if we can wrap this up. But before I do that, I want to just say a couple of words about how much I've enjoyed working with you all as a group. I've enjoyed the professionalism, the productivity, the fun, and the deep care that each of you have for each other and for this town. And it's a joy to have worked with you so far. I'd also say, Kelly, you and Amy have been wonderful, and I'd give particular shout out to Amy because she's kind of the point person for a lot of this. And the way this would work would be we would do something, then Kelly would have thoughts, give them to Amy, they would chat, then Amy and I would talk, then we would talk to Kelly. It would just keep going back and forth, and then we'd come back with something with you all that you all could play with and do something with. And so it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. So a little bit about the process. You all know we started in December. We actually started it, and we had kind of a environmental scan, SWOT analysis, those kinds of things. We did a mission, vision, and values. We were going to meet, I think, in January. Then we got snowed out, and or it was sick. People were sick. Were sicked out, and so no coronavirus, but some kind of virus. We came back and we kind of put together the goals and kind of broad sweep on some of the initial initiatives. In between that, we gathered some input from the community, and some of the community members are here now, and I just wanted to acknowledge, those that were able to come and provide some input, because what I learned through this process was that a lot of folks in Rolesville, are singing off a similar sheet. And, you've done different types of plans, the comp plan and different other parks and plan and so forth. And this plan really aligns with all that. And so to me, you all are well on the way of continuing to move forward. And so that's what I would say about that. So I'd like to thank the community input. I think we had 120 folks all together on that Monday or Tuesday. And then we had, in between the two sessions, we had staff kind of review what we had done and add some stuff. So thank you. So there's a document that Amy's going to be passing around at this point. It's a draft kind of brochure of the strategic plan. So I just want you to kind of take a look at it.
Yay, pictures.
Thank you.
Have you all seen this? Okay.
Thank you.
You want one?
So now this is where it gets really quiet. No naps.
No naps.
No naps. It is somebody's bedtime, though. I'm not going to say who that is, but it's somebody's bedtime. I'll give you a few.
This is the same in the agenda package, just in a different look.
And it's a little more.
Yeah, without
That's
the
correct.
objectives.
So what's in your agenda packet is the full strategic plan, including the initiatives. What you have before you right now, I just passed out, is sort of it's the essential elements, the high-level elements from the strategic plan, put together in a brochure that we could share with the community. We could share amongst ourselves, along with staff. The interior is designed so it could be used as like a poster or a work area mat kind of thing. So we always keep these things in front of us and what your important goals are.
So I know that you will want to read that in more depth, but I have a couple of questions to ask you at this point. So we've been working on the mission, vision, and values pieces, and want to know kind of what you're thinking about the finalization of the wording of those. So if you want to take a look for just a minute around the wording of the mission, vision, and values. Yeah.
We passed that around a little bit, didn't we? Of letting everybody give a chance to edit it, did we not?
Yeah.
We did. It was done. I probably gave Amy more gray hairs and Kelly as well. But the end result, I can say I was pleased with what finally happened. So I thank you for your patience and for your creativity and making that work.
So does everybody feel like you got everything in there you want in there? You feel pretty good about it? Sheila, you feel pretty good?
I have a couple of questions. I don't know how, we're obviously not going to get in depth with this tonight, but not in this. I really like this because I'm visual. I love that. But in the actual longer document, there was something in there that stood out to me along with the vision statement when you were defining it, I guess, and it said something about what we want to be in the future. It just seemed really vague. So there were some tweaks that I had for this particular deal.
Not for this, but
Not
for the other
this,
one.
correct.
All right. So can you give those, it's around the vision definition?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's one of them.
All right.
Another one?
And thanks, Ronnie.
And I do have one thing to say when Sheila's finished.
And then just some of the initiatives, I was just questioning some things on those. I just didn't know how in-depth we were going, and I don't want to take us off a track, but I like the high level. That's very good.
All right.
But some of the details is what I was looking at.
All right, so I'm gonna let Amy talk about that in a second, because
Okay.
you're right, because we want to stay up here, but get input on what you want to look at. So Michelle?
There was just one adjective that I just didn't really know if it fit, where it says cool annual events. I just don't feel like the cool is working.
Wait,
Am I wrong on
but you
that?
were there with Buzz the whole
That's just a
time.
nice-
Like old people trying to
You
be
were there
cool.
with Buzz the whole time. That's a buzzword.
Yeah, it's not buzzing though. It seems so. Oh my God, that's so cool. Like
Trying to be hip.
Amy and I went back and forth, and I kept it. But if you want to take it out, you can.
I'm so sorry. I just just get it out of there. But everything else is so good.
Take out cool? Amy, you win.
Please take out cool.
Amy, good job, Amy.
Amy?
But Buzz is the one that fed us all the
I
time.
know, he got us on
All
that one,
right,
but that's
fine.
okay, we can fix it
I
now.
will say Buzz is cool.
Yeah, I know, but we're not,
I don't know.
we're not gonna have cool events. We're just gonna have events.
That's right, just events,
I mean, if another word comes to you, I'll think about it too, but just not cool.
just not cool. So Amy, do you want the initiatives tonight, the questions, or
Yeah,
just the? yeah.
I do.
All right. So Sheila, if you.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna go through this now? All right.
Yep, because we're getting close to game
Can I
time.
email you this?
Sure, but is there anything that really
Well, that
draws
future
you?
thing to me was just too vague.
Where's that at,
Can you
Sheila?
I'm
put-
trying to find it.
Yeah.
It was on, I don't think there's a page number. It's right after the memo, under introduction. It just says the vision statement is an aspiration statement of what the community wants to be in the future. To me, that just felt so vague. Almost like we're just playing. One day we'll get there.
Wait, where you at on there?
It's on the, after the memo, the next page, it says introduction.
Yeah, I think you're on the first page. So that's the definition
Right.
of vision statement.
Right.
So, yeah, we can work on clarifying.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and I came up with those definitions, so I'm happy to work with Amy on.
Sorry, it just felt just really out there, like.
That's what visions are.
Really,
Really,
felt out there.
but they're not, some of them are cool and some of them may not be, but we'll figure it out.
Hit or miss.
All right. Are there other comments?
That was the only thing that stood out to me on that, but I was looking through some of the actual initiatives and I was a little, there was some input I wanted to give. So can I email?
We'd love to have them because it's not really clear in the
Can I
memo.
email you?
What we did with your goals is that we spent 2 meetings as department head group management team coming up with what we believed were at least reasonable initiatives to move each goal forward over the next 2 years.
Gotcha.
And we actually had to cut them because we don't want to make this a real full-time job for all of us. But so we tried to come in and scope down what we thought were reasonable and doable. Now, if you don't understand them or you question them or don't like them, we kind of like to know that, because what we're going to do after this is you're going to adopt this, and we're going to start, as of early tomorrow, start putting together the steps to get to these initiatives and start what are we going to do with these. So it really would be beneficial if you could take a moment to start going ahead and saying what you think of these, or if you have questions.
There's a lot here,
Uh-huh.
a lot. Am I the only one that, I don't,
It is.
And it's a
Some
lot.
of it's more than 2 years, though. I mean,
There, some of them are initiators of action, and they may not be complete in 2 years. They're steps towards what we can do to, like I said, move forward on the goals.
it's just about everything around public safety is a 5-year look.
Probably so. But there will be, within that, there will be some things we'll do within the next 2 years. Once we kind of go through these and say, what does that mean? How are we going to move those forward? We're going to actually start developing a few action plans on these. So, do you want more time on these and go ahead and give us feedback on these, or how would you like to proceed on the initiatives?
I think we need more time because there were a few in here
There's
too
a
that
lot
I was
here.
questioning.
It
Not
is, I'll
questioning,
tell
I
you,
just have more
it's
questions.
just, I
Overwhelming.
mean, it's almost overwhelming. I wish we could condense.
There's a lot, I understand.
It's,
because to me personally, I'm gonna just say it, to me that feels like a work session. When you're coming up with initiatives to say, hey, we're gonna do this, this, and this. Like I'll give you one example. When I saw, and this is because this is near and dear to my heart, when I saw inventory current recognition programs for beautification under town's appearance, and determine if the town can support or enhance existing programs or create additional programs, I don't even know what that means. And for that to be an initiative, when I think of town's appearance, I'm thinking of something totally different. I'm thinking of when I drive through Rolesville, the signage for businesses all look different and all over the place, cracks in the sidewalk. businesses not being maintained on Main Street, that is more what I'm thinking about when I think of the town's appearance. The wayfinding signage, the new businesses that come in, having some standards for them so
Right.
that we look like a cohesive community. So it's a little more than the beautification program of the month. That's kind of what I interpreted there, and I might be interpreting it wrong, but I just want to make sure that we're going down the right path and we're not barking up a tree and wasting time.
So is it the board, do you want to, let's do a work session?
I
if that's
think
what
we
it takes?
should. I think we should step through this together to come up with some initiatives instead of putting something out there that we're really not committed to doing, and then we're just going to go back and say, oh, well, we didn't do anything on that.
I think this is probably a good base start, and we take and massage it and go through them. But I think we really need time to do that.
So do we need to each individually, before we have that meeting,
Sure.
check,
Yeah.
cross out, whatever, so that when we come here, and God, I'm praying it's not 7:30 in the morning again, to go
6:30.
over the, oh, stop playing.
That's right. Michelle,
we
I
can
start
do
at
that.
4, but
But definitely a
Yes,
work session.
that would be helpful.
Yeah. And I'm not knocking all this. I'm just saying it is a lot to say, oh, everything looks great. It's a lot to process. I did read over all of them, but
I mean, there are
It's a
62
lot.
initiatives. here.
62.
That's right.
I mean, it's too bulky.
So that's the question. What do you, I mean, we kind of wrestled with that too. This is the work program for us and you over the next 2 years. Or do you want to reduce the number and come up with different ones? That's fine.
Well, I think I follow Jackie a little bit. Start with 60 is a lot for a short period of time. But when you're thinking anywhere from 2 to 5 years, and some of these are 5-year initiatives.
I understand
You look
that.
at the fire department and stuff. We're talking about 5 years from now. So when you if it's 5 years, 60 of them is what? The number gets down small.
For every year.
So that if you identify what's a 2-year plan and what's
I
a
was just
5-year
getting ready to say
plan,
that.
that might
And
make
if
it
you
a little bit more.
categorize those like that,
digestible.
the short term and long term. I mean, if we've got some that are 1 year, let's group them
Yeah.
together.
And that's the negotiation of the
Yeah.
timeline.
Yeah, and it would make it more manageable. But 62 initiatives, it's a lot.
Plus, that time span sets a realistic expectation for the public. So if you
Yeah.
create this document and you
Yeah.
put it out there,
Yep.
folks are going, so when are you going to do this?
They're gonna take it and beat us to death
That's right.
over this. I mean, that's just a fact.
are
of
you
life.
ready for that,
And
Jackie?
then it just goes downhill from there.
We just want to set the right expectation so
So-
people don't walk away thinking all of this is happening in a
How
year.
about 2 weeks from now? Would that be
Yeah.
fair? We
Are you
can't come
talking
back to
date,
this?
are we talking morning again, or we're talking?
Probably a regular meeting.
Regular work
See,
session.
That's why I said don't add anything else onto that work session. It always grows.
No, I think we need a meeting. I think we need to. Because
Right, we do, but
we're
now you
right here
added
at the end.
something
We
else.
don't want to rush through it. So I don't
Right.
know.
I agree
Yeah,
with Ronnie.
right. I'm
We
good
want
with it.
quality, not just quantity. We want
So I
quality.
almost think it needs to be a Friday or Saturday again or something.
All right, Ronnie.
I mean, he was asking to meet with us. He's enjoying it so much.
That's right.
You did say
I
that.
think I was just being vague on that, Ronnie. But we can work that out if that's something I want to do.
And it would be with department heads,
Yeah.
so we can work together as a group.
That's a good idea. We didn't
Oh, yeah.
include them last time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
No, they're the ones that created these.
Oh, so put them out there, right? So wait a second. We're talking Saturdays now?
either Friday or Saturday, probably. Whichever one. I know Paul's tougher on Friday.
I'm tough on Saturdays.
We could probably figure out the date, but I do think it's a good exercise for us to go through together to come up with some realistic stuff.
And
to
we don't have
offer.
to decide tonight, but yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one more thing for discussion tonight, and that's the definition of affordable housing. So we can talk about that tonight, or you can talk about it at the work session.
That's going to be a long discussion.
Yeah.
I think it is.
I think that needs to be a work session.
All right, but I do want to ask you, did you have some kind of a definition you want to start us off with?
No, what I wanted to
Oh,
do,
okay.
what I think is each of you have a definition and a picture in your head. And what I would encourage you to do is for you to play with it individually and not talk with people about it until you come up with it for yourself. Then what I would say is share it with each other and see what's common about it. And then talk about the outside pieces, the outer edges of that. Because I think that there's definitely some common ground that you have, but I don't know that you know what it is yet. So if you can define it by yourself, and even if that's kind of messy and vague, that's a start. And I think then you can start a conversation about it. Because I think, Michelle, you and I were talking, before the meeting, the definition of affordable housing over the years has gone from here to here, and it's like, well, what does it mean? And so it, on one level, it doesn't matter what it means until it matters what it means to you all. So that's what you have to struggle with. So I think you would do yourselves benefit by struggling with it individually and then talking about it. And then I think you're going to shape each other too, but start with yourselves first.
Sounds good.
So we'll add that to our work session?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I am in complete agreement with Rick. I think it's set there by other agencies that you're gonna work with.
Say that again?
I think it's already been defined by other agencies that you're gonna work with.
I beg to differ on that.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
for your supporting of something, and I would take time to read all those also.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's out there. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
You got so many
Thanks, Kelly.
influencing factors. I mean, you're good or bad by comparison only. When we're compared to the rest of Wake County, and the average home is $300,000, and in Rolesville it's $343 as of 3 months ago. That's a big difference. And then also we've got to talk and think about the recent cut in interest rates that will start to trickle down pretty soon, so people can afford more because interest rates are down. So we've got to take that into
People
consideration
can
too.
afford more, but that's still taking, I think that's a different category when you're talking about affordable housing.
Yeah, affordable housing to us, we're looking at the dollar amount.
Your point.
That's right.
Affordable housing to some people is what the monthly payment.
Kelly, is there a definition you could find right now?
No.
There's a whole host out there on the internet. To Kelly's point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and in fact, again, I told Amy today that in my previous life somewhere else, we had to hire somebody and spend $50,000 to talk about this and come up with a plan.
Oh, we can do it for
I'm
less
just-
than that.
I'm just saying, we can, but it's just that kind of conversation. It's a long conversation.
It is.
And so, and then ultimately is, how do you address it?
But
conversation.
putting it in context for Roseville.
Yeah.
Not trying to solve it for the whole United
No,
States,
no, no,
right?
no, no,
but
no,
putting
no.
it in context
Yep.
for Roseville, because there's affordable housing, there's market
Right.
housing. We've got to think about it. So when developers come before us, we're all we understand what our vision is for
Correct.
affordable housing or whatever we're going to call it.
Whatever you're going to call it. That's right.
Yeah.
So do you like Friday mornings? Would March 27th work on everybody's calendar right now, if you were to do?
Tough for Paul, ain't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
Paul
Friday
is not
mornings are
good on
hard.
Fridays. Thursday,
Sorry,
26th?
Saturday mornings are better for me.
I can't do
Most
Saturdays.
27th, I'm in Charlotte.
Getting very
Or Friday
busy.
afternoons. Friday mornings are tough.
Friday
I could
afternoon,
do
be
it.
good?
Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I can,
Yeah, either one. I'm
Afternoons.
flexible. Anything's fine for me.
Friday
On a
afternoon. at
Friday
20?
afternoon then.
Except, let's see.
He's kidding.
So we're talking March still, correct?
Uh-huh.
Late March.
I'm afraid if we walk away and forget, we're gonna forget. So I'm gonna shoot for like the 13th or the 27th, more likely.
So you don't want to do it in conjunction with this,
I'm out of town the 13th.
where we were going to review all of this stuff at the work session?
13th, I'm out of town.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
March 13th, I'm out of town.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, is set the work
13,
session for
14,
this.
15.
Otherwise, you said the 27th?
Okay, on
27th works for me.
Maybe I'm confused. Do we not have a work session on the 17th of March?
Yeah.
They're not trying to add that to.
Yeah, but right now that is set for the capital discussion and budget. and
Okay,
other
so
items.
we're looking at a different date for an additional work session.
If
I'm
I
with
heard
you.
that there was an interest to do that, we could
Just,
do it.
I'm just clarifying.
Did you say the 27th does not work for you?
I mean, I'll make it work, it's fine.
It works for me as well.
What date is that?
What time is it?
Or I put something on the
17th.
books.
Or we could start later than the 17th.
I think it's at 7.
Or what, the 17th?
Oh, just a regular work session.
On the 17th, is it a regular time for the work session?
Currently it is.
Currently.
And on the
Let's
27th,
move
it'll
on.
be what time?
Afternoon. But we could start earlier on the 17th and work on this.
Okay, that sounds good. So,
And bring in sandwiches on the 17th? Paul, can you make it in?
Yeah, that's
early?
fine. Yep.
Does that work for you, Paul?
Mayor, does that work for
I
you?
could do either. I could do the 27th too. I'm open.
okay, so we're looking at 317 and 327.
We could start on the 17th at 6, see how far we go. Determine if we need to do more at a later date.
Even if we got a part way done, we had to meet like one more time, you could condense that last meeting then, instead of having the whole meeting like all day. Yeah.
This will not let me make changes to my calendar.
Wait, is there a time for the 27th? Or not yet?
Not yet.
TBA? Okay.
But I'm looking at the mayor confirming whether it can you start.
Yeah,
the-
I think it wouldn't be tough anything earlier than 4:30 to 5 then.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking 6 on the 17th.
Should work.
Work for everybody? Sandwiches and.
Wait a second, isn't that?
Sandwiches, pizza.
St. Patrick's Day.
That's a Friday.
Meeting day.
No, that's on
Everything else.
Wednesday. It's,
That's right. Dave's buying corned beef, making corned beef sandwiches.
So work session on the 17th at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
6 p.m. And if we need to continue, we're going to try the 27th in the afternoon, which is a Friday.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay. We probably want to put that in writing for
I will
everyone.
do that in writing.
Perfect. Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any way you'd like to see the incentives broken out? Initiatives broken out differently so they don't run together so much, or a different format, or are you
If you can
okay?
put them in 1, 2, and 5 years, that may help a little.
Or just put the years beside it, and then we
Yeah.
could sort it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Without having to change the whole
Trying to
thing
figure
up.
out a little bit,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think the format's fine. Just need to step through it.
Okay,
In my opinion, that's just Sheila's opinion,
right.
but she has a lot of them. Huh, Dave?
okay, thank you, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next item. We're gonna go back and decide on the call of public hearing. There was 3 items. I think it was on page, I had it pulled up here. One point in time, 16, it's page 15 or 16, I believe. If you wanna see them.
yeah. Let's ask Danny, on the 3 items, is the zoning map amendment request, is that a formality? Is that gonna be
We're page 15?
something simple?
Page.
I don't think I'd call it simple. It's a significant project down the road here, across from the new relocation of Burlington Mills Road. It's the industrial track side of Team Extreme going to commercial. But I don't want to say it's simple.
No, it's not.
But I don't want to mean it's going to be very complex either. It's just, it's.
I mean, how many minutes you talk, what do you think as far as discussion period?
I don't think it should go more than 15 minutes, unless there's a lot of debate during the public hearing. The neighborhood meeting's coming up, we'll know more then. This would go to the planning board at the next meeting and come back to you for that, the recommendation. Whichever you want to do.
Okay, so I'm just so I understand, we're trying to get rid of one of these here
Well,
from that agenda, from this agenda?
Yeah,
Lightning load.
and to me, that would be the one to get rid of, because when you're slowing down development when you call a public hearing, when you, I don't know how to say this, but of the 3, if I had to get rid of one or move one up, it would be that one,
Which one again?
the map amendment.
Is that Austin's? How critical or quick do he need that done? He does?
Yeah, and it also gets to, so this is really gonna be this tough conversation. I'm trying to wrestle with you all and trying to better understand your timeliness and interest of meeting time. But I've also heard there's interest of having a public hearing, closing, and not taking action at night potentially. So you can take the comments and come back to it after a period of time to consider it. So we're just kind of grappling a little bit on schedules, timeliness, scheduling. How much time do you want? How much time do you want to spend on these? Do you feel like you can make decisions, or do you want to process? That's why my item I have to talk to you later on.
But the farmer,
I think you're adding a good perspective there. The better we can be prepared, the quicker it can go. I think the more efficient it can be.
I agree with Ronnie. Rather than pushing it down the road, it's just clogging the next meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can be prepared for that, I like the fact that we have a public hearing and we make a decision while it's fresh on our minds.
Yeah, I think we could do that. The information, I think, is one of the things that clogs up a public meeting when we get new information at that meeting that no one has seen before, and they want to be entered in evidence or want to be part of the stuff. So in these three, if we can have all that information ahead of time.
On Friday. I'm sorry,
So
on
the
Friday.
Friday before.
Before
Yeah,
the
the
meeting.
Friday
Well,
before.
I think what we talked about is having it before we schedule a public hearing, almost to have all.
But definitely by Friday.
I think
before the
we
meeting.
ought to have it by the next meeting. The workshop meeting, you would get the information for.
Well,
But what if
then
it's
that'll
not-
give you 2 weeks to digest it and stuff, and you can be prepared for it.
What if we
Friday.
don't have it by
But
then?
is that a reasonable
that
request from the
reasonable,
planning?
yeah. Is
from
that
the planning
reasonable?
board?
Well,
for
we
planning
can
staff.
share the information of the request, but in this case, don't know if we won't have planning board recommendation.
That's the
No, I'm not
deal.
talking about.
But I think you're
I'm
asking
talking-
the initial application and information of what they have applied for with some staff comment.
Yeah, I'm talking about, to show up night at a public hearing and you got
A packet.
a 54-page
Packet.
market study that's been done, or a 75-page transportation
study.
plan, first time we've seen it.
Traffic impact analysis.
Traffic
I would
study.
say we need all those weeks in advance, really. Because,
Okay.
that stuff clogs up the public hearing.
Because the planning board thing, we can make a decision based on that night. If we know there's something wrong, we could ask, why didn't they like this or that? But it's not like a big report we're going to have to go through sitting here trying to figure it out. So,
Does that backlog everybody who's coming forward then?
Yes,
It does, right?
yes.
I mean, I don't mean just here. I mean the petitioners, the ones who are applying.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
It backlogs them. Yes, it does.
Well, the one thing we're very deficient on is we don't have a calendar, and that's what I've been talking to my department about, is we don't have a development calendar, and we're all guessing what the calendar is. And that's something I want out of this UDO, and I'd like to get it done sooner than later.
Okay.
But no, it's a fair point. Developers want certainty, they want to know the timeline. So, you're asking what I'm hearing tonight, and that's a commentary. What I'm hearing you right now say is you would like, when we have it, try and bundle it up early in some format so that you can capture it and study if you have time before the Thursday before a meeting. That's right? And so.
Definitely
and I-
before
and I
the
think
night
you've-
of the
And I think you've talked to me, Mayor, about when we schedule them, even 30 days out, try and have that information ready so you can start to see it and be able to include it in your thought process and analysis. And Danny, I'm gonna have to ask you if that can be done. How fast out, soon out?
Well, again, we can provide as much information as available to us at that stage. And the only other question, which is, we probably don't need to debate now, is a quasi-judicial application about giving it to the board in advance of that, but we can talk about that later. I don't know, I don't want to bog us down tonight on that question.
But you said it's-
there is 2 cases, I believe, are quasi-judicial coming up.
You just said as much as is available to us. That, to me, is the part we've got to get away from.
Right.
It's got to be, this is what we need available to us.
Right, and there's some information that we already have available on the website, so
Gotcha.
therefore we can share that with you.
Right.
That's public record. But we got to avoid discussion outside of the hearing, I guess is what we're heading to.
But we need to get the information early. This board
Right,
needs to.
right. You need to be able to see it and examine and digest it yourself. I understand that.
That's right.
But it's become a practice with those packets being passed out, 50-page TIA. That is, you don't have time to look at it.
Overwhelming. I understand.
It's
I
quite
respectfully understand it.
Yeah, I read, but I don't read that fast.
And if the board wants to, the first one is passed out during the public hearing that we hadn't seen before, you can ask for a table for me to study this.
Does the planning commission get everything
We're
they
all to do
get
it.
for planning commission meeting?
Planning board, yes, yes.
So minimally, we need to set a date that when it goes in front of planning commission, we can give you all the material the planning commission gets in advance. So that's a week or two extra. Because that's the deadline, right, for material.
Yes. Now, that's anything legislative or administrative. That's not quasi-judicial.
Okay.
Because quasi-judicial does not go to the planning board.
That's right.
But going back to what you said earlier about a development calendar.
Yeah.
So even if we don't have, I don't know what you're thinking, maybe you're thinking something more grand than what I'm thinking, but we can't just say, hey, this is the cutoff. We need all your information by this date.
Yes, we
If you
can.
don't have it, you can't come forward with your public
We
hearing.
do for
It's that simple.
submittals to get to the deadline, to get the agenda packages done, or get to the planning board, or get to
Right.
the TRC. I do have that discussion with them in advance of that. But it all starts with the application going, depends on what the process would be. TRC, then planning board, then town board, or TRC directly to the town board. There's different processes, particularly with quasi-judicial. Not getting into the details of it at this point. But yes, we do require them to submit information in advance to get to that agenda package.
Okay. I
Now,
won't argue.
we can move that out further, but I'm hearing from discussion here is you want, some of this information is so much, you'd like to be able to share that with you in advance, just to have the information in your hands to pre-study.
If it's part of our consideration, yes, we need to see it.
And respectfully understand that.
So.
Okay. All right, so, what is the wishes of the board on these three? What you want, it could be a long night. You want to try to do all three in one night, or?
I mean, can we get the information for these in advance then? For these three?
That's what we asking for.
Yeah.
The rezoning case, yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should try it.
And if we
All-
don't have
all
it-
three.
And if we don't have the information,
We don't
we
move.
don't hear it.
Yeah.
And if it goes too long?
You just can table
You
it
need
and
that?
continue it, or what, you know?
Mr. Mayor, with regard to those quasi-judicial hearings, which you'll have two of, the applicant and the other parties who have standing have the right to submit whatever evidence they think is appropriate at the hearing. We can't deny them the opportunity to do that. However, they have to understand that they do so at their own peril. If they need a decision made that evening, they may find that the board determines that they have not had an opportunity to process what has been given to them as evidence, and the hearing may be continued. The applicant, the opponents will have to make their own assessments regarding that, and that's something we can all discuss separately. But we cannot require them to submit things by a certain date, or we will not have their hearing, or we cannot refuse to accept evidence offered at the hearing for the first time. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. But I
Refuse to decide on that night because we need more time to process.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
yeah,
So how do you roll this out? Because there are already some cases that are going to be coming before us.
Well, we're gonna probably get this information we have, again, as soon as I can to you, in advance, but we're gonna continue to work on this. This is something that,
It's not going to happen overnight, I know that.
no, we just haven't, it's been a point of mine for 19 months that I haven't figured this out yet. We don't have the staff to be able to sit down and really focus on this and with you all, and I'm hoping the UDO will come, that's part of that, but that's 18 months out. I want to get it done sooner than that. I know it's frustrating to you, and I appreciate that. And I know developers feel like they don't quite know the timing of things. And I want to make it best for everybody. So we just need to work on a calendar and get it solid and make it work as best as we can. So it's one of those things I appreciate your patience on, but we're going to get these to you as soon as we can. I agree with your to continue these, get these scheduled, they're ready. I don't think they're gonna be that long, but that, never mind. You know, I think we're just trying to keep things rolling, and as they come in, if they're ready for planning commission, they should be ready for you. And if you need information before the Thursday, before Tuesday, which I'm hearing, we'll work on what that's gonna be and get them out to you in advance. Great, thank you.
What's the wishes of the board? Your motion one way or the other?
I'd say we go.
We go for all
I
three.
move we hear all three as scheduled.
Okay, I got a motion, I hear a second.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
No, wait, I do have one thing to ask Danny. So if we get all this information at the same time as planning gets it, there may be things in there that have changed once it went before the planning board, correct?
Might be.
So then
You'll-
we're looking at something, making these assumptions in our head and verbalizing it when it's already been addressed through planning, but we haven't gotten that feedback from Danny yet.
What we'll do is give you advanced material,
Mm-hmm.
and then when it goes in a packet, our goal will have to be to rewrite it, and if there's something new, we'll have to bring that to your attention in the material, that something's been modified either by the planning commission or recommendations or such.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, call for vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you can add those three for public hearings.
I do want to say, I realize we have a staffing challenge. I want to point that out so that it's in the notes. We have a staffing challenge when it comes to planning. And I know we've tried to fill some positions. So I know this work does not happen by itself. But it's hard to make decisions. I think we all have figured that out. But we do have a staffing challenge. So thank you all for what you all do, with what you have.
What you're about to do.
Yep. Communications from town attorney,
Nothing to report.
communications from town staff. Anybody got anything they want to?
Go for it.
They're all so excited.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Board. Just a quick update or reminder about something the town's been participating in, a pilot project with the Triangle J Council of Governments, actually. And we've been, as part of this pilot, we're using a new online civic engagement platform called Polko. So this will be a way to kind of improve our communications with the citizens, be more open as a government. Just another platform where residents can sign up online, and we can ask questions. A couple of the current topics that we want to be asking residents about this year will be the transit study that's ongoing right now. So questions are out there on this platform right now about the transit study, the community transportation plan is coming up, and then also the UDO rewrite. This is just another way, and it's connected to our social media platforms as well. It went live last week, and just another way that we can kind of be open and communicate with our residents. So just wanted to remind everybody about that. You can look for it on our website. We have a public engagement webpage under the Your Government section of our website, and you can learn more about that. Polko, Polco. So that's it for tonight.
Kelly, I have a question for either one of you. Did I hear correctly that there's something that Wake Forest has put on their table in regards to getting transportation for between Wake Forest and Rolesville? Forestville Road or Rogers Road? No? Did you hear that?
A study.
What type of transportation?
I know they're trying to get busing. They're working on getting a.
That's what our study is
The
going to.
transit
That's what our
study.
study.
No, I think.
Is that different than the transit study?
Yeah, I think it is. But you know what? Maybe I was half sleeping. I'll have to revisit it. I'll call you tomorrow.
Our transit study is a joint study with the town of Wake Forest
Right.
to look at transportation needs.
Right, but there was a little bit more. But
I think I can quickly clarify that. It was
Okay.
in the last stakeholder staffing meeting when we had, Wake Forest asked that we include Forestville Road area in Wake Forest, and we decided we'll go ahead and include Rolesville side.
Okay.
Down to the Raleigh city limit line, which
Okay.
is just, that's Drayton's Reserve and.
Okay, thank you,
an area.
and that's what
So
it
that's
was.
what,
Okay.
it was a little bit of an expansion of the study area.
Okay.
That's what that was. But yeah, it is the joint project between Wake Forest and Rolesville. And they asked to add a little bit in the area, but they're not going in the inside the loop of the current circulator.
Uh-huh.
They're staying on this side of the current circulator they have in Wake Forest.
Okay.
We're looking at connecting to that, and then, of course, tying into other areas.
All right, thanks, Danny. That's what I heard. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, thank you.
Let me hit, while I'm up here, I've just got two things to say.
Oh,
Don't have permit information to answer you today. We'll have that because we didn't have a chance to get the data. But I did want to report that at the planning board meeting, Mark Powles was elected chairman and Mike Moss was elected vice chair, which has been that position before. And of course, Commissioner Medley knows, and of course, Damien's joined the group, got his first sample without having to have actual case before him. And that we had, through the School of Government, introduction to land use planning decisions. And I can make that available if any commissioners would like to see it as a self-examination thing you can go through.
Thanks, Danny. It was good.
I want to give you all a brief update on the renovations at Town Hall. This has been a joint project between JG and I getting this off the ground. If you noticed if you came in the front, you probably noticed things were a little barren in the lobby. We have already cleared out the front offices. The front entrance for Town Hall has been moved to the left side of the building. So we've got some signage out there. We're working on getting some additional signage out there to make sure all of our walk-in customers know to come to the left side of the building, the traditional Parks and Recreation entrance.
Is it on the billboard too?
Yes, we've got notice flipping out there as well. So, notice to y'all that we're hoping that the construction actually gets underway this week. I think we're ready to start moving some of the electrical around and knocking down some walls. So we're excited about that. Project should take 60 days once it gets started. So we're looking at probably early, let's see, we got all of March, April, so probably early May when we'll be ready to move back in over there for a new and exciting lobby and customer experience when they come into Town Hall. We're hoping to, again, improve that customer service piece with a better window, more centralized customer service for people coming into Town Hall, and some important security protections for our employees. Also related to that, just a note for you, our contractor will be parking in the back parking lot during construction. I know a lot of you often park in the back and come in the back door. As that construction's going on for our public meetings, we are asking staff to park out in the front, and you may want to consider that as well.
And that door will be the entrance to these will be closed.
Right, we'll use the community center entrance for your public meetings. And we'll have signage for that as well.
So can I just ask you, so the lobby right here, is that going to be the front?
So right now, when you walk in, there's a lobby with two closed doors, right? And then there's the lobby to the left that comes into this room. And then there's another lobby to the right that goes to the cashier window. All three of those lobbies will become one big lobby.
So it's going to go right across the front of this here?
Correct.
So how do you get through these doors?
Well, there'll still be doors here going into that big lobby.
Take all the walls out that divided everything and make it all one.
Right, so the entrance to coming into the front of Town Hall will still be in the front, still the same doors.
Essentially.
Okay, countertop. Where will the countertop be? Put it that way.
When you walk in, it'll be immediately to the right. When you walk in the big lobby, there will be no separate lobby for that cashier window. You'll walk in a big lobby, you can go into the chambers, or you can go to that cashier window.
It's going to be beautiful.
I'm good, thank you.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Amy.
Chief is trying to make, you see, Chief, he was trying to get up here. Trying to get up here.
Good evening. I'll try to keep this brief as well. Just wanted to update you on special events. Hopefully you saw the save a date flyer in front of you tonight when you got here this evening. One of the things I don't think is on there, but March the 28th, we're going to have another litter sweep. We're hoping to evolve that into a volunteer-led program from this. So that's our goal, to do hopefully monthly sweeps moving forward. So March, we're looking forward to that one. Again, that's March 28th. I believe we're going to start at 8 a.m. and we're going to meet here at Town Hall, just like we did last fall. So we're excited. We had a good turnout last year. We're hoping to get another good turnout again this year for that program. I won't get before you again before our next couple special events. So April 4th, we will have our egg rush at 10 a.m. at Rolesville Middle School. That's ages newborns to age 12, I believe. And then that evening from 5:30 to 7 p.m., we'll have our first concert, and that's going to be Will McBride Group at Millbridge Nature Park. As a reminder, we do have food trucks, a beer vendor, and we're going to have, we call them yard games as well. We have cornhole, 9 square, big jingle, like we had for Fall Fun Fest set up. We're going to have some of those games for more of a kids zone area, trying to make it more family friendly. Again, we're just trying to enhance and grow our program, special events every year. So that's another enhancement that we're doing to the concert series. So again, those are April 4th, market calendars, 2 great events. We average probably 800-900 folks that's been coming out to the egg rush, and we're hoping to get maintainer 200 to 300 folks coming out to the concerts. That's kind of what our goals are for this fall or this spring, and hopefully even larger than that. So want to hit those real quick. I'm sorry I'm going fast. And as Kelly had mentioned, hopefully you have noticed the streets are looking a little cleaner these days. We have rented a street sweeper. We're about a week and a half or so into that first rental. We're still learning the machine itself. We've hit Main Street. We're trying to hit it twice a week. Young Street, and we're trying to hit those main corridors twice a week right now. And we're also trying to get into every subdivision. I think we've touched every subdivision. I'm not saying we've done every street, but we've hit every subdivision. Our goal, we have another about 12 days with this machine right now in this rental. We hope to hit at least touch every street in town. And from there, Isaac and myself are going to sit down and get a good game plan. So next time we get it, we understand how far we can go, how much can we collect before we have to go dump or refill and those kind of things. So we're still learning the machine, but we feel with the rental time that we're getting it, we're definitely going to be able to touch the entire town when we have the machine. So the next time we get it, we hope to get it again in mid-April, get it before Rec Day as well. So Main Street's looking pristine for Rec Day parade. So, again, going to beautification, we're doing the best we can to try to make sure. And it's helping us with stormwater as well. We're getting all that debris up before it's getting down in those storm drains. And you'll see them this week on Main Street, removing those grates, and they got a hose on the back, getting down in those storm drains and getting out any sediment that's down there as well. So that's the next phase. We're going to hopefully, if the weather will cooperate, this week.
I have a question, JJ.
Yes, ma'am.
On Jonesville Road, and I don't know if this is a new issue or this has always existed, when you come off the bypass,
Right.
like you're coming into town, on the right side, because that's where we swept litter in the fall, it was very moist that morning. I mean, my sneakers were soaking wet, right? But there's a puddle there now. I don't know if anyone's noticed it. Every time it rains, there's a puddle there.
On the road or in the right of way?
In the right of way. And I know it's DOT, but I'm wondering if it has anything to do with the development of Carlton Point's trails or anything. But I just noticed that there's a puddle of water there now each time it rains, and it didn't used to do that. So I think that's something we need to pay attention to, because that could create some hazards. And then my other thing was, is there any way we can look into lighting in that area? I know there's some poles there. I counted them. I counted 3. Anyway, I think that would deter some of the litter that's going down on these side roads. Anyway, just something to think about. But there's a puddle there each time it rains really hard.
I would be assuming it's nighttime litter, or?
Yeah, if it's dark, then people will just, we picked up like whole McDonald's packaging, like the whole meal. They just ate it and left the whole package, I thought.
That's Carlton Point.
Right in front of Carlton Point, yeah.
So who's that served by? Is that Wake Electric? Or?
Yeah, and I think
Was
we
that as well?
checked in today, Amy, didn't we? And we didn't find any electricity out there. Seems
Some
like-
poles right
I'll have to go back.
Yeah,
I'll have to go
there's
back
3.
out there.
I counted 3 poles.
Okay.
I was in the car, so. But I just noticed the water, and that's new.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know if there's an issue there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, JJ. Need some better sneakers.
Glad you were brief, JG. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm going to be brief. This month, for the month of February, we had a total of 1,898 events. That includes self-initiated, proactive, and dispatch reactive calls. Also, our department response times were less than 4 minutes. We attribute that to the new Tritech CAD system that Raleigh has. It'll deploy the closest vehicle to the call, or the officer themselves could grab the call when it's dispatched. So that's helped reduce our response time drastically. I know Commissioner Medley asked last meeting about Camp Care. I put that in the FYI packet for January. We revamped that to Camp Kids for kindness, integrity, decisions, duty, and service. We did receive the ABC grant for that, so that'll be funded for the next 2 years. I don't know if Mr. Wilson repeated this when I was out of the room for the Public Safety Committee meeting, but Sergeant Myers has been accepted to do a pre-qualification for a PT instructor, which is scheduled for March 23rd. So once she completes that, we'll install a wellness initiative plan, maybe incorporate the Cooper test and the POPAT for our officers to maybe mandate for them to pass that. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'll get back to you on that. We have one officer left to attend crisis intervention team training. That's, how to react appropriately to situations involving the mentally ill or developmental disabilities. Once that officer completes that training, we'll be at 100% compliance for our goals concerning that training to include civilian staff. So that's excellent. Once again, I'd just like to thank you for allowing me this opportunity, as always, to work with a bunch of great men and women at the Rolesville Police Department.
Chief.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Would you speak briefly about the Explorer school program that you're doing at Rolesville?
Explorer, we're working on that. We're in the research phases. We've met with Raleigh, Wake Forest PD, and that's going to be one of the initiatives there that we're going to kick off that'll probably be this year. It's budget coming up for the Explorer program. That'll be for 14 to 20-year-olds interested in becoming a police officer. So we'll be able to recruit from our high school any future police officers is our hopes, and send them to BLET and sponsor them to go to the academy and then hire them back to work in our community.
Very good.
I
have a question for you, Chief.
Sure.
So I was at a meeting recently. Ronnie and I actually were there. The mayor and I were there, and we were asked about Spanish-speaking folks in our within our staff. And I don't know if any of the police officers speak Spanish or any other language. So I didn't really know the answer to that. And I think Christina does speak Spanish, right?
No, she doesn't.
Oh, she does not.
No. I speak Spanish, and Officer Quicker, the 6'9" guy we presented to you last time, he's fluent in Spanish.
Oh, awesome. That's good to know, because we didn't know that.
We're trying
answer.
to recruit some diversity, so we're working on it.
Awesome.
Well, the one that he had, where is she, at the federal level now or something?
Oh, she was reserved. She was retired from Morrisville, and she's working for the federal bankruptcy court at this time.
Gotcha. Well, that's good to know. Good
Yes,
information.
it is.
Thank you.
you.
I
You're
didn't know
welcome.
you spoke Spanish.
What about staff?
Yes.
Anybody staff?
God, heck yeah.
Claro que sí, que yo hablo español.
I'm sorry, Ronnie, what'd you say?
I was asking manager, anybody from staff speak Spanish, but we do not.
We were asked that, and I didn't
hablo
have an answer.
español.
Awesome.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Good job. Keep it up. Communications, did we get all the staff? Miss anybody?
I tried to ask the invisible person to talk
I think
now.
everybody got up
9:35.
there one time at least, and maybe one twice, but any communications from the town manager?
The only one I want to bring to your attention is we talked about whether we wanted to keep May 5th on the agenda or not, because it might have been in conflict with City Vision 2020, the municipal league conference, and based upon my research, and I do have copies of preliminary schedule I can give to you, but it does not appear we need to be down there until the open ceremonies at 1 o'clock on May 6th.
May 6th.
So I would recommend we keep the meeting for May 5th.
I agree.
And those of you who are attending would drive
The
the
next
morning
day.
of to get to the opening ceremony. Robin is prepared to make those reservations sign you up, and you have to, why I recommend you make that decision sooner than later is because that's the only way, once you get registered, to get to your hotel. Pretty smart on their behalf.
Have a block.
And so, starting tomorrow, if you've told her, she's going to start registering you. And if you're later in life getting back to her, I don't know what hotel we're all going to be in. I think we're going to try and do them together so we can try and get the same place, but I really don't know how that works. So if you know tonight, or as soon as you can, let Rob know, but I'm going to let her tomorrow start registering for May, hotel for May 6th and 7th, because it does go through dinner on May 7th, Thursday night, and then come back that Friday morning. Does that make sense?
So it's Wednesday, Thursday,
Wednesday, Thursday.
Come back Friday or Thursday.
Come back Friday morning.
middle of the week.
Okay, so if you haven't communicated to her, please do soon if you are going to intend on going.
I will not be able to go this time. I got to be in Greenville, South Carolina that week. But I do recommend going. I do recommend anybody that can get the time to go, you'll get a lot out of it. So I do recommend you going.
Ronnie and I went last time. It was really good. Very informative.
That's all I have.
I think Buzz was there too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
Buzz was
He
there. That's right.
Anything else? That's it. All right, thank you. So you covered both of these things. Communications from town board, any additional thing from any of the commissioners? Jackie, Sheila, April, Paul, Michelle? Okay, the only thing I would add is we did get the grant. Y'all saw that, everybody that's been communicated. That's a good thing. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Michael, everybody. Thank you, Kent, everybody involved with that. That's for Main Street and also Burlington Mills, so thank you. Good job.
When will that start?
They got to do engineering and construction starts July next year or somewhere close
So the first day that we can start construction is October 1, 2021. That means everything is done and agreeable to the federal government, and we've got the bid out. So that's the earliest we can actually start with a construction project. So that's my goal. I don't know if we'll make it. Between now and then, we have to get to all the various steps, including 100% design, including bid, all those things. So we had a great meeting in here with DOT and Stantec and us last week to kind of start talking about that schedule. We recognize there's some pieces we still need to put together, but we're going full bore already. And you have money in your budget for not only the engineering that needs to happen to get up to that point, but then the matching funds to match the grant starting in October 21.
Wow.
Probably at least a 12-month construction project too, thereabouts. So somewhere in September, somewhere in summer 2022, most all this should be hopefully done. That's all I got.
We're also working to get Granite Falls completed during that time, towards the end of that. It looks promising at this point in time, but it's too early to tell. You know, that property's owned by a private landowner type thing. But we are working. It'd be nice to get it all done at one time or close to being one time, so we are working pretty hard at that. Made some progress, so good job on that. Last question, Board of Adjustments. We done anything to get those folks kicked off?
We have not had a training session for the Board of Adjustment. That's something that we do need to schedule. But we do not yet have a case. So
Who would take the lead on that? Is that
Be both of us.
be both of y'all? Okay, good. I think that was one of the things we want to get kind of done. So if we need them, we have them. So appreciate that. That's it for the agenda. So is any other business we would need to take care of? Closed session?
We're going into closed session, right? Okay.
I think there's a request there. You want to do that, Paul? Or?
I don't have one.
Closed session?
Yeah, it's the last thing on the agenda.
Somebody have it?
Somebody's got the motion in writing.
You got it, Ronnie?
Yeah, I'll read it. Adjourn to closed session pursuit of NCGS 143-318.11A4 to discuss matters pertaining to economic development. I hear a second.
A second.
More discussion. All in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, we're going in closed session. Thank you for coming, everyone.